2022 before this honorable house. Thank you very much for the recognition. Madam Speaker, as Junior Minister with direct responsibility for the Ministries of Social Development and Gender Affairs, as well as the newly established Ministry of Youth Empowerment, Aging and Disabilities, for my presentation today, I will focus on the achievements, goals, and plans that are related to these areas, and also my intention is to describe and just highlight how these plans and our goals actually fit into the overall vision of the 2023 budget presentation that was made by our Honorable Prime Minister and member for number 8. Madam Speaker, to begin, allow me to draw our attention back to the theme of the 2023 budget estimates. Like my fellow member opposite, the Honorable Member for number 10, is it? For number 10, I also really like the theme for this budget. I think it's a very strong theme, and it focuses on, transformation as a sustainable small island state, towards our transformation as a sustainable small island state. Now, Madam Speaker, what does this really mean? We say in all these words, what does this really mean? And so when I think about, our thrust towards a sustainable island state, I think that means, we're talking about a St. Kitts and Nevis that is ultimately self-sufficient, a St. Kitts and Nevis that is resilient, a St. Kitts and Nevis where our people, our environment, our economy, and our resources all stand the test of time. You see, Madam Speaker, I really consider a sustainable small island state as a manifestation of who we are as a people. That's core to our identity as a people. You know how we have the saying that they say we small but we taller? I think that's what, a sustainable small island state exemplifies and signifies. And that's really what we're working to live up to. We're really working to maintain our core identity of who we are, and this is what we are moving towards as a federation in terms of being true to who we are as a people that are strong, self-sufficient, resilient. Now, the real question is really, well, how will we get there? And that's really what we're here debating throughout these presentations. How are we really going to achieve becoming a sustainable small island state? And it's clearly laid out. I think our Honorable Prime Minister did a very excellent job in his presentation in telling us exactly how we're going to get there. And so I'm happy to contribute and give some more details as to how we all contribute to this vision. And so the vision for our sustainability is initially captured in the key pillars that are outlined in our budget address. So if we recall, the budget would have highlighted and addressed 7 key foundational pillars. These pillars are very important because in order for us to stand the test of time, Madam Speaker, we really need to accept the lessons of the COVID-19 pandemic and strategize around COVID-19 recovery, which is one of the pillars, of course. We also have food security, achieving food security, which is one of the pillars, and we would have heard from Honorable Member for St. Kitts 4 about the plans for food security. And I believe we can all say that we have confidence that we are going in the right direction when it comes to food security. We also need to be energy efficient. That's another pillar. Pillar number 3, energy efficiency. And I know we will hear a lot from our member for St. Kitts 3 about the plans for energy, because we already heard a little bit about the renewable energy mix that is coming. We also need to be economically diverse. A few members opposite would have talked about the need for us to move away from our dependence on CBI. And of course, as an administration, we know this. And so that is why economic diversity is one of our key pillars. We also need to have thriving industries. So we want industries that are different, that are also diversified, and we want to fuel that. We're going to fuel that with innovation, with the creative economy. So we have thriving industries, the creative economy, also as an additional 2 pillars. And of course, Madam Speaker, the final pillar that is mentioned, that is listed, is the strong mechanisms needed for social protection, Madam Speaker. And social protection, I want to say, although it's the last pillar, it is by no means the least. Because you see, Madam Speaker, social protection is cross-cutting. It is vitally important to any thrust for sustainability and development, because social protection is about creating the necessary social safety nets to ensure that all people live well and live with dignity. And we need that. Regardless of whatever the goal, the direction, the thrust, we always need to ensure that people live well and live with dignity. And so, to ensure that our health, that our welfare, and our well-being are all provided for, social protection, of course, is a key pillar to our thrust towards a sustainable small island state. By the end of this, you're going to remember those words, because that's the chorus today. Okay? So social protection, again, is really about ensuring that our means and our needs for survival and empowerment are protected, especially when we experience shocks to our economy and our environment. For example, we would have gone through the experience of the COVID-19 pandemic, and throughout that experience, we would have had to ramp up our social protection initiatives to make sure that our vulnerable, the elderly, those who are shut in, those who are poor, received extra social welfare and social assistance support. So that is what we want to make sure that our people have through social protection. Now, Madam Speaker, I don't want to have to belabor the point, but the reality is, again, that social protection is vital to our thrust to development and sustainability. And fortunately, for the citizens and residents of St. Kitts and Nevis, social protection has been prioritized. Social protection is really the foundational mandate of the Ministry of Social Development and Gender Affairs. The day-to-day function of the ministry is primarily to provide social protection services. That is literally what we do. And for the past 22 years, since the ministry was founded and established as part of a government branch, we have been doing just that. And so, we provide a slew of services. For those who may not know, the Ministry of Social Development and Gender Affairs provides social assistance services such as food voucher programs. We provide school uniform assistance. We provide medical assistance so that individuals, children, adults can travel overseas, because we know health is expensive. Health is expensive, and so we provide medical assistance. We also provide support to non-governmental agencies that also contribute to the social assistance ecosystem. So we would provide funding and subventions to our children's home, of course. We care very much about our children. We provide support to our shelter services. We also deal with programming and provide social assistance support in the form of income supplements. So, I think we all are familiar with the PAP program. That is really a social welfare program. And so I'll talk a little bit about that a little later, but these are some of the programs that we provide that fall under the social protection umbrella of the social services that the Ministry of Social Development and Gender Affairs provides. Now, these are services that the ministry provides to really support the most vulnerable among us. That is really the goal, to make sure that no one is left behind. So the most vulnerable, Madam Speaker, when I say the most vulnerable, I'm really talking about those of us who, we're talking about the poorest of the poor, the indigent, the sick, and the suffering, our children, the elderly, the disabled, and women who may be in lower socioeconomic brackets or in instances where they are in abusive or unhealthy environments. Madam Speaker, the work of the Ministry of Social Development really is vital to ensure that our transformation and thrust towards sustainability is effective, and that we are all included in this thrust, and that no one, again, that no one is left behind. That's actually, if you actually people read the estimates, it's actually in there as part of our mandate, no one being left behind. That is really what we're trying to do. And so we really want to think about it almost as, a safety net. So you have the government and you have the public, and then you have this nice little net underneath so that the people that don't receive the benefits of what this good government administration has to offer, that of course they get caught. So nobody is going to fall on the wayside, because that's what we're trying to do, to make sure that social protection mechanisms are in place. Historically, Madam Speaker, when it comes to the budgets, the ministry has been in the top 5 when it comes to the allocation of government expenditure. So when I say that, so in terms of the allotments of how much money, so the biggest allotments from the budget, the ministry has typically been in the top 5. Because, as we would have mentioned, how vitally important social protection is, and from the things that you would have heard, we provide a lot of social programs and social assistance. So, and that costs money, of course, but we want to invest in our people, because again, remember, no one is being left behind. That's really what we're trying to make sure we accomplish. Now, I want to address a couple of things that the member for number 9 would have brought up and, expressed in his presentation on Tuesday, was it? Thursday. So he would have expressed, that St. Kitts and Nevis has some of the most social assistance and social welfare programs. And it's true. It's true, Madam Speaker. Because, that is not only that because we obviously value social protection, but we care that much about our people that we can be accused of being a very big social welfare state. Now, of course, to the people receiving this welfare, it's good, but to the government purse, it's not the best. And so, we do have to be mindful that social welfare does not become the norm. That social assistance does not become the norm. And that, as the member for number 9 would have said, that people become disincentivized to hard work. We don't want that, Madam Speaker. That is not the objective at all by any means. And the truth is, it's really unfortunate that the former leadership would have enabled a culture of handouts and overdependency as a result of the approach to social assistance programming. For instance, when I say this, what I'm really referring to is, when we think about the Poverty Alleviation Program, that is affectionately known as the PAP, the way that this program was originally instituted and distributed, Madam Speaker. The approach, first of all, it didn't start out in where it should have started, within the Ministry of Social Development, because it is a social assistance program, social welfare program to help assist individuals. But the way that it was done, Madam Speaker, it was unsustainable. And remember, that's just counterintuitive to what we're trying to accomplish, of course, which is a sustainable small island state. With the Poverty Alleviation Program, Madam Speaker, the way that it was initially instituted and distributed was almost like just a handout system. There were no necessarily strong eligibility or means testing to make sure that we have the people who really need this extra income support receive the income support. And I'm sure the senior minister will talk about this a little bit more, because he belabors the point all the time. And so one of the things the PAP program, once the new administration, once we came into office, we learned that there were over 7,000 people. What was the exact number?
7,491.
7,491 people was on the PAP, Madam Speaker. 7,491. Our population is what, about 52,000 people? Madam Speaker, this is almost a fifth of our federation. So when we talk about, just think about these numbers. And we were talking about, again, I'm trying to connect this to the point that the member opposite said, just in terms of the unsustainability of us being able to support this in the long term. If a fifth of our federation really and truly are in need of social assistance in this form, that really says a lot about the government and the leadership. And so, Madam Speaker, it's really not sustainable. This is not sustainable for us. This is why the program is really being revamped. This is why you would have heard the message from the Honourable Member for number 1 about the re-registration process that has been ongoing. And I just want to make a little plug and announcement that for individuals who may be interested in re-registering or registering newly to be considered to receive the PAP in the new year, that today we want to encourage you to get your applications in by the end or before the end of today, because we're really trying to wind down the applications. I believe the last I heard the applications were over 10,000. But again, Madam Speaker, as we think about revamping the program is going to be shifted a little, because it is, like I said, what we're really seeking to do is to ensure that the most vulnerable and those who need it get it. And as part of the revamp, Madam Speaker, the plans for this program is to institute a case management system, a case management aspect, so that people can actually be graduated off of the program. Because what we're trying to do, of course, is to not disincentivize people from hard work or from empowering themselves. That's what we're not trying to accomplish that by just continuously and indefinitely giving people this handout. We're not trying to create a handout culture, because we want for people to maintain the idea that hard work is part of our resilience, it is part of our sustainability thrust. And so while we will be reviewing the new applications and the registrations that come in, I do want the general public to know that, now that the program sits with the Ministry of Social Development, the plan is that it will, applicants will go through an eligibility and a means testing, and that a case management phase or aspect will be instituted so that we can ensure that persons don't perpetually stay on the program, but that, we'll check in to make sure that we can guide them towards opportunities for employment, for entrepreneurship, to be able to assist themselves and strengthen their ability to earn and support themselves and actually uplift themselves out of poverty or relative poverty, which is really the objective of the program. Poverty alleviation or reduction is really what we're trying to do, and not perpetuate dependency on the state, because that is not sustainable. And what we're doing, Madam Speaker, we're moving towards a sustainable small island state. So in order for us to achieve that, we do need to make sure that people can be graduated off of these programs, and that we can then reduce the persons who are really in need of this. And so, of course, like I mentioned, stricter eligibility criteria based on means testing and a balance of needs will be instituted. And so, just remember, folks, this is, a social assistance program, and it's really targeted towards the most vulnerable, the poorest among us. And we're talking about the people who really need the income support, not people, they need the income support to meet their basic needs for survival. That is, to make sure they can put food on their tables, pay for shelter, and have clothing on their backs. So we don't want people just, wanting some extra money and some top-up so they can go buy their weave, or, pay for a rental over the weekend. That's not what the program is about. And unfortunately, in the first iteration on the previous leadership, that seems to be what was happening. And so we're really trying to curb that and stop that, because that is in direct counterproductivity of what we are trying to achieve as a sustainable small island state. Now, it really is unfortunate that this program, and also similar programs like it, so we would have had the Alternative Pathway Program, ALP, which is commonly known as the Peace Program, that these programs, which are really intended to be social assistance programs to help persons, was more so politicized, and politicized to a way that it has actually really cultivated that culture of dependency that was raised as a major concern by the member opposite. And so, we recognize this and we are making the hard decisions here. We're making the hard decisions because we recognize that the government purse simply cannot sustain this handout approach that was formally instituted. And that's a fact. Madam Speaker, the government purse, we just can't, we can't sustain it. It's not sustainable. And so in light of this, Madam Speaker, after discussing with the financial experts in our team and taking the advice of our highly competent financial secretary, the cabinet took the decision to refine the program and actually reduce the budget allotments for the poverty alleviation program. Let me say that again. So the PAP has not only been moved over to social development, and under that purview so that we can incorporate the means testing and eligibility rules that we typically have for all of our programs, but we've also had a reduction in the budget for this program. And so with this reduction, the ministry has, for the first time in a few years, experienced a reduction in our recurrent budget expenditures. So I don't know how closely our members opposite were paying attention to the numbers, but before anybody come jam us and say we don't really care about social development because we're getting less money, the reason for that is because we recognize we have to start pulling back in the way that we just offer handouts and cultivate this handout culture. So we're working to make sure that people are empowered in other ways through other areas of government and not just through handouts. Now, in addition, one of the reasons why there has also been a reduction in the budget allotment for the Ministry of Social Development and Gender Affairs is that with the creation and establishment of the new Ministry of Youth Empowerment, Aging and Disabilities, there has been a transfer of funding and assets and resources of the elderly care and disability services, and that financing, which was usually held by the Ministry of Social Development, has now been transferred over to this new ministry. But of course, I'll speak a little bit about that later, but I just want the public and all our members to understand and recognize why it may seem that the budget allotment for the ministry has been reduced in the estimates for 2023. So that's the reason. So, Madam Speaker, for 2023, the Ministry of Social Development and Gender Affairs does in fact have a total budget estimate of $43,254,144. Sound hefty, right? That's a lot of money still. It sounds substantial, and Madam Speaker, this includes $3.7 million of expenditure for capital projects. Sorry, excuse me a minute. Now, the ministry is very grateful for this because, we do have plans for our capital projects, and these plans actually include renovations and upgrades to our community centers. I hope people are really excited about that because we're excited about that. Again, this was something that was raised by the member opposite, and he was talking about, we need to centralize our use for technology and, placing our laptops and computers in our community centers. But we recognize that the state of our community centers are not great. I'm sure our elected representatives, they have complained about these things. Sorry, I'm just making some space. They've complained about these things, so I know we have community centers where, roof leaking, windows broken, and we get complaints, and the truth is there are people and there are organizations that really want to use our community centers, and we want them to use our community centers. They're there for the community. We really, part of the ministry's mandate and our objective is really to facilitate community and social cohesion. We want people to use our community centers. We want our youth groups and our young people to have a free space where they can go and have their meetings, and we actually, despite the not so great condition of our community center infrastructure, we do use them still. So as a matter of fact, the Department of Community Development and Social Services do use our community centers around the island as satellite offices, and this is to ensure that persons in our rural communities have access to social services and to community development officers so that they don't have to travel and journey all the way to Bastille in order to get services and to speak to somebody from social services. So currently, our community centers are being used as satellite offices. So if anybody wasn't aware of that, if you do want to connect and contact with social services and you don't want to come to Bastille or visit the office up at Lime Kiln, you can find a satellite office at the community center in your area. And so, you know, we have allotted over $1 million to make sure that we can facilitate renovations and upgrades to our community centers. And the ministry wants to prioritize our community center upgrades because, of course, again, they serve the people and they seek to facilitate community cohesion. It's a real objective for us. And so, Madam Speaker, of course, our community centers are multi-purpose and multi-use. In addition to being used as satellite offices, we know that they are used for community events, for private events, for community programs, and of course, very importantly, as emergency shelters. And so we definitely want to encourage the use, and of course, it's very important for us to make sure that they are functioning and that, you know, at least you could close the windows. You know, you imagine you have a hurricane and it's emergency shelter and the rain coming in. We can't be having them things. That's counterintuitive, you know? So we do have budget allotted. That is $3.7 million to support the upgrades to our community centers. But you know, Madam Speaker, I want to take this opportunity right now to make a plea to the public to stop vandalize the government infrastructure and the community centers. One of the problems that we have had, and I know the member for St. Kitts number 1 has expressed experiences of just how members of the public have complete disregard for our community centers. There are some members of the public who just vandalize after, you know, we would have fixed windows. They go back and mash up the window again. And it's like, for what? Why? Why are we doing this? And so, you know, I really want to beg the public, y'all stop mashing the government buildings. We need the community centers, and we are, you know, while we are committed to upgrading and improving our community centers, you, the members of the public, need to take responsibility and take care of our community centers. Please, we're begging you. You know, we really need our community members to work with our assigned community development officers in the different centers to help us with overseeing the use of the center and to take ownership of the maintenance and care. We cannot upgrade and sustain our community centers for use and community cohesion if our own people and the people in the community don't care enough to take care of these spaces as an extension of their own home. That is what we need. We need people to take ownership and take responsibility for taking care of the centers. And it's not just about vandalism, it's about when you use it too. When you use the center, clean it up. If you make it clean, leave it clean. These are some of the concerns and complaints that we get from our community development officers when they're really trying to make sure that people have access to the centers. So please, we want to make sure, see how we done budget for these capital projects. We want to make sure that when we're done putting the money and the investment, that the people, the community, takes ownership and takes care of these spaces. We really need that. So I'm making a very strong plea to the community and to the public to take care of our community centers. And just, you know, to offer some specifics in terms of our plans for our community centers and capital projects, the honorable member for number 2 would be pleased to know that the McKnight Community Center is on the top of the list for our major repairs for 2023. And so, you know, I want the people, or the good people of number 2, to know that your representative is working, that she be making sure she advocates for you. So we hear that. And so, you know, y'all want to keep her. So we have prioritized the McKnight Community Center as the top of the list for major repairs in 2023. And, the repairs we're looking at include plumbing and ventilation. And we've also prioritized the center because, the McKnight Community Center also serves as the primary location and the base for the daily programming of the St. Kitts Disabilities Association. So every day, members of this association, this is where they go to do their programming, this is where they go to meet, this is where they have all of their activities. So this is another reason why we're prioritizing the McKnight Community Center and the upgrades to this community center in 2023. So please, Association, Disabilities Association, we have heard you, and we have the budget allotment, and so we plan to go ahead with that. So I'm happy that the honorable member for number 3 and Minister of Public Works entered, because Public Works is the one who we would have to be counting on to make sure that these upgrades happen. So I'm also told that we do plan to make some also minor roof repairs to the community centers in Old Road and also in St. Paul's. So that is on the agenda, and we do hope to get to them in the 2023 year through the budget allotment that we have for capital projects. But again, once we done make these renovations, these upgrades and maintenance, members of the public, please make sure you help to preserve them. And if you see anybody vandalizing the centers, call the police, because vandalism is a crime. Is that right, Attorney General? Yes, okay, good. There's a crime, and we have an AG who don't play. So, so please take care of the centers and stop vandalizing them, members of the public and community members. Now, in addition to the capital projects that we have outlined, we do plan to reserve just some funding so that we can also support the renovations of the actual office space for the Ministry of Social Development and Gender Affairs. So that's just with all transparency for the people to know that the 3.2 million is also supposed to factor in some renovations, well-needed renovations that we need to the office space to support the staff fleet that we have who deliver these social services and human services. Okay, Madam Speaker. Now, in addition to capital projects, most of the ministry's budget, of course, will be used to support and build upon our program and service delivery across the different departments. So, Madam Speaker, we have multiple departments within the Ministry of Social Development and Gender Affairs, and so I'll take the opportunity to go department by department to let you know what the plans are, what some of our accomplishments are, and how we plan to use the government's resources to improve and support our service delivery. So, program delivery when it comes to community development and social services. So these are typically our community development officers who are based in our communities, and our social assistance officers who deliver our social services. The plan for this department is to return to the standard approach for social protection. So our programming will return to the model that was there once before, but then was, stopped under previous leadership. So we want to reintroduce case management to support skills and knowledge acquisition of targeted populations so that we can build resiliency and independence, because of course we're moving towards a sustainable small island state. So we want to make sure that we can help with our programming for our people who come for social assistance, to help them through case management, to make sure that we're assisting them and guiding them, directing them towards the resources that help them to advance their training, that help them to find opportunities for employment, so that they can build their own resiliency and empower themselves so that they are not perpetually on our social assistance programs. Of course, people need to be graduated off of social assistance because we're not trying to be a social welfare state. We want to be strong and resilient and independent and self-reliant. We also plan to have fuller engagement with our communities so that we can really understand the needs of our community and see what we need to do as part of our post-COVID-19 recovery efforts. We've had, within the estimates, we have been able to approve the creation and addition of some additional staffing positions for, one for a social assistance officer and one for community development officer, which would allow us to then regularize a couple GAE workers and bring them onto the appointed positions that we have. So I want to take the opportunity to thank the staff who work diligently and who work hard with members in the community to really assist persons who come in, and really pour out, the struggles and the challenges that they're having in life and why they really need the support and social assistance. And so I really want to thank the staff within the Department of Community Development and Social Services for their work. I really appreciate what you do and want to continue to encourage you to do that. So we've been able through this budget to be able to increase a little bit by a little, just increase the staffing, or to be able to get these appointed positions so we can regularize a couple workers. And that will also allow us to, with the expected increase now that we have the PAP program under the purview of social development, it gives us the manpower and resources, or the woman power, and the resources to be able to deliver this program and to deliver the case management. In addition to the social assistance officer and the community development officer, we've also been able to get an additional case manager. Remember, I told you that case management is going to be a very reinstituted and reintroduced as part of the social assistance framework and approach. So we are grateful to be able to have these positions so that we can actually execute in terms of our programming to become a lot more effective in the work that we do to graduate people off of social assistance. So that is community development. So next we have our National Counseling Center. Now, I would have met with all of the departments within the ministry when it first started, and I must say I was very, when I walked into the counseling center, the staff and, the morale and just the vibe was all very zen. Whatever they're doing up there, it's working. Everybody gets along at the National Counseling Center. And so I want to just take this opportunity to give a shout out to all of the clinical counselors and the family counselors at the National Counseling Center. This is really, National Counseling Center really focuses on advocacy and awareness around mental health. And they also provide, obviously, counseling. And counseling is open and available to everybody across the Federation. And, I think the recognition of the need for mental health counseling is increasing. And the stigma that has traditionally been around mental health has been reducing. And I think that is that can be quite attributed to just the professionalism of our counselors. And so I really want to thank the Counseling Center for the work that they're doing. And they've really seen some successes. We've really seen that the trends have shown that on average, our clinical counselors see a total of, 175 clients per year with contact time of about 50 minutes per session. And this is with a client who stays on the books for about 6 to 8 months with, a therapeutic relationship. So it's been very beneficial. It's been very beneficial to the people. And we're seeing, they're actually saying that they're going to soon probably ask for more positions because, they have a lot of clients. And so we want to really thank them for that. We also are seeing more children and adolescents who are seeking counseling, seeking this form of therapy and mental health support. And of course, just statistically, during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, the center would have registered a 20 to 25% increase in the requests for services, because I believe, statistically, we would have seen that the COVID-19 pandemic would have had major issues and challenge for persons dealing with mental health during that time. And so, the counseling center is there and they continue to do their work. We may potentially see a need in the future, not in 2023, but in the future for increasing the resources in our National Counseling Center, especially as we have heard that not even just outside of individuals, but also within our work environments, that our staff, particularly I can remember for number 2 would have mentioned that her staff in some of her departments would have expressed a need for some sort of psychosocial support. And so we do want to be responsive as the National Counseling Center to be able to support individuals and groups, and that is part of the plan moving forward for 2023. The staff and the director at the counseling center would like to be able to do some more group counseling, and also just to be able, just recognizing the influx of clientele that they're getting, they do plan to institute a sliding fee structure starting in 2023. And really this fee structure is just so that individuals can take ownership of the fact that they are seeking this service. Currently, counseling from the counseling center is available for free, but they do plan to institute a sliding fee structure so that they can ensure that persons who book the appointments actually show up for the appointments when they say they will, and just take some ownership in the investment that they're making into their mental health. It will be a nominal fee. Of course, we're not trying to deter persons, but this is also an opportunity for the counseling center to generate a bit of revenue for the departments and for the ministry. So that is one thing that the public should be aware of and just be considerate of. Again, it would just be a very nominal fee. And on the point of mental health counseling, we really want to ensure that people feel encouraged. Again, the stigma around mental health, thankfully has been reducing, and mental health support is really something that is vital. I personally have a therapist, and I think everybody should have a therapist at some point in their life. It's very beneficial in ways that you may not know, and so we really want to continue that advocacy and that awareness building, and really, encourage people to think about your mental health as you think about any other type of health. So your physical health, your sexual health, you really need to think about the health of your mind, mindfulness. Because it is important. What you think and what you feel, they are very much correlated. And so the work of the National Counseling Center will continue, and again, I want to thank the staff who work there very hard. And we also want to continue to make a plea for individuals to actually go off to study. And to actually go up to the point of getting graduate degrees in psychology and counseling, because we also need those skills. And we encourage men as well. We need some males to be invested in this profession, because we do find that men seem to be more comfortable talking to men, which is fine when it comes to therapy, and we would hope that we can shift that trajectory where we have fewer males who seek counseling. So that's making a plug there for any young person who might be considering or wondering what they should go off to do. Psychology, there is space and there is opportunity in this space for us to be able to provide the even additional services and support. And I want to thank our partners, who is the Mental Health Association and other associations that work in this space. They work closely with the counseling center, and our guidance counselors in schools who work with the counseling center to be able to deliver services to support the mental health of our federation, because that is also important if we're talking about sustainability and resilience of our people. Madam Speaker, on to the New Horizons Juvenile Rehabilitation Center. Now, for those who may not be aware, the New Horizons Juvenile Rehabilitation Center is a facility that was instituted just 10 years ago. It was established 10 years ago, and it's really to be able to support the rehabilitation of young people who came into conflict with the law. And so the center had started to be able to, provide young people with rehabilitation so that they can, find a new horizon and be rehabilitated to reintegrate into society as productive individuals after having come into conflict with the law. Now, over the years, in the past few years, I just want to make sure that I'm not interrupted by the lateness of the honorable member opposite. Thank you for joining us, sir. So, Madam Speaker, apologies. As I was saying, the New Horizons Juvenile Rehabilitation Center, we, over the past few years, would have experienced some few challenges with the center itself, the actual infrastructure of the building. an environmental hazard was caused, so we had some issues with the building, and so that has forced the staff and the functionary and the operations of the center to relocate. And so we actually recently completed relocation of the center just last month. And so we're now in a new temporary location while we seek to have repairs done on the center, and that has been prioritized for 2023 so that we can see the full reopening of the New Horizons Juvenile Rehabilitation Center. We currently, we don't have, thankfully, fortunately, I must say, we don't have too many young people at the center. So we are focusing right now on training of staff, old staff and new, and a little bit of a deployment so they can be attached to different departments and sectors to be able to get some training while we work on repairing the original site and restoring the operations fully of the center. I want to take this opportunity to really thank the organizations and associations that have been supportive of the work that the center has done. The Bar Association would have recently donated some equipment to the center for use for the staff, and so we're grateful for that. And like I said, the focus is to, for staff training in the different areas, and we plan to deploy the staff and just kind of temporarily attach them to different departments as we work on renovating the center, and especially since right now we don't have a very high number of individuals, of juveniles, I don't like to call young people juveniles, but of young people who are in need of rehabilitation at the center. And so that is the plan for New Horizons. But, for the past 10 years, we have really been working to support youth rehabilitation and youth reintegration into society so that we can, almost kind of sort of implement some kind of diversion for our young people to make sure that they are healthy and productive. So the Department of Gender Affairs, Madam Speaker. Now, I want to just take this opportunity to start. I know this morning I woke up early, as I usually do. I had plans to go for a nice run, but I was swayed from that because I got news of a social media report from a private individual who's known, very well known in the media, and it would have reported just the incident of domestic violence for a young woman who was clearly threatened by an abusive partner. And so I just want the general public to know that I am aware, that the department is aware, and that we have already made movements, and we have taken action to ensure that this young woman is protected, that she and her child are protected, and that the person who was clearly threatening her and her life is apprehended. And so I want the public to be assured that the incidents and that domestic violence and threats of that violence are being taken seriously by the administration. I want people to know that the Prime Minister is the one who actually sent me the video, and he was like, what are we doing about this? And, I responded, and, we took action immediately, and so the police commissioner would have met with the young woman, and we're trying to make sure that she is protected and safe, and that the individual is apprehended. And just on that point, the plans for the department, we would have already heard about the commitment that we do have to making sure that we combat gender-based violence and domestic violence across the Federation. Yes, getting to that, Prime Minister, yes. So some of the things that we would have already done just within our 100 days was, we have amended the domestic violence legislation to make sure that it's more accessible for victims and survivors to gain protection orders and restraining orders, so that can be done a lot easier. and that just the functioning and operations can flow a lot more fluidly. And so with that, we are hopeful that with these initial amendments that things can move a little swifter in terms of the system and processing of incidents. And of course, we do have plans. We still have plans for 2023. The Prime Minister would have mentioned in the budget address just the plans for training of our police force. And, on this, I want to take a moment because I think there are a few things that would have come out in this video and this report just about, delayed response by police officers and, the lack of confidence that the public and individuals may have in our law enforcement. Now, we recognize that this may be a challenge and this may be an area that is in need of improvement. We recognize that, and that is why we do have in the budget and plans for training and improvements in terms of the relationship that the department has with special victims and also with all of the police officers. What we would really like to see, for sure, what I would really like to see is for, all police officers to understand and recognize that it is not only the special victims unit that needs to respond when we get these reports. So really, when we get these reports, when you get these reports, we need to respond with urgency. And of course, you forward the report on to the Special Victims Unit, which is a unit within the police force that is intended to deal with crimes of these matters, that is in relation to abuse, violence of women, men, children. But in terms of being first responders, the expectation is that if anyone reports a matter of this, in terms of gender-based violence, domestic violence to the police, that they're not left having to wait 2 hours to have somebody respond. So just like any other matter, we would expect that incidents and cases of violence against individuals, against women in the domestic sphere, in relationships, and men, of course, yes, and children, that it is responded to with urgency and not just put on the back burner and say, well, that's a SVU matter, we just expect SVU to respond. While SVU is manned with dealing with these crimes, we don't have the capacity to be able to respond as urgently, and so we really would hope that all police officers understand their duty to respond with urgency when we have reports of domestic violence or any form of gender-based violence, abuse, harassment, or anything. We really do need to do more. We need to do better when it comes to responding to keeping people safe and out of danger. And so I really want to make that plea to our police and all persons. If you're in the community and this is happening, don't be afraid to call. And we've already gotten a bit of outrage. Like I said, I understand that in the public there is a lack of confidence in our police, but that's something that can be changed, and I'm committed to making sure that we can move the dial forward so that we can really take these crimes seriously, because it's happening too much. It's happening too much, and it's severe. The level of threats that this man would have made to this woman and her child gives me goosebumps. It's terrible, and we need to stop it. If he did. Sure. And so that's the lawyer speaking, but this is the defense lawyer. But and that's fair. That's fair. Allegedly, I can say that's okay. Okay, have me. Okay, see that, sir. But we regardless, we do know that these incidents happen far too often, and we do prefer to be precautious and ensure that at least there's a response. There should at least be a response by the police, even if it's true or not. There should be a response to any report of violence. Okay, and so that is really the point that we really want to make. And so I just wanted to make sure I started with that, because I know members of the public have been sending this video around and asking questions about what is the response. We are very well aware, and action has been taken. Okay? Okay, so in relation to gender affairs, again, in the work that we would have done, just in this past year, you know, I would have traveled to Geneva just in this year to be able to present to the UN Committee on the elimination of violence and abuse against women. And so this is a UN panel, because as we are signed on to this convention, we did have a duty and obligation to report to say how far we have gotten with meeting these obligations, and we would have received a number of recommendations from the committee. And so the plans for 2023 would be to implement some of these recommendations in relation to, you know, temporary special measures, in relation to employment and economic empowerment of women. And so we do plan to take some of these things on board. And so the plans for 2023 would be to implement some of these recommendations and, of course, to continue the programming that already exists. So we have our mentorship program for boys as well as for our girls empowerment programs. We do plan to continue these because we do recognize that in our fight and our efforts to achieve gender equity and to reduce the scourge and eliminate the scourge of violence, that we obviously need to get at our young people, and we need to teach them. We need to teach them what healthy relationships look like. We need to teach them about confidence and self-confidence. We need to teach them about healthy masculinity. We need to teach them about, you know, confident femininity. And so we really want to ensure that these programs are strong. And I want to thank the adult mentors who contribute their time to volunteer to support these young people through this mentoring, because it's really important. Mentorship has been proven to be effective, and so we want to thank those who volunteer their time to support the department with this programming. So that's our girls empowerment and mentoring and our boys mentoring programs that we would have instituted some additional chapters and launched just this year. So we plan to continue with that. We also would have had a successful cohort of our Women's Economic and Entrepreneurship Empowerment Program, which was thankfully sponsored by the Republic of China, Taiwan, and the Taiwan ICDF. And so this program is an opportunity for our women entrepreneurs to gain some training and find ways and network to be able to establish their business ideas and gain their entrepreneurial skills so that they can build their business and support themselves. And so we really want to thank our sponsors, like I said, the Republic of China, Taiwan, who's a very strong diplomatic partner, and we're grateful for that, and we look forward to continued work with them. Based on the successful delivery of the first cohort of our Women's Economic Entrepreneurship Empowerment Program. So in terms of our plans moving forward, again, we do plan to continue our programming and, of course, continue with the implementation of our National Gender Equity Policy and Action Plan. We continue to have a strong working relationship with the Nevis Department of Gender Affairs. They have been over to St. Kitts a number of times just this year to support our programming, and we've similarly been over to Nevis to be able to assist and support them as well with the work that they're doing, and we look forward to it being continued. We do plan for 2023 to, like I said, the department within these estimates, we've been able to secure the creation of a case management position within our very, very small Department of Gender Affairs. We have one small additional position that we seek to be able to implement some case management to be able to allow us to respond better and to improve our efficiency when it comes to supporting victims of domestic violence. And so we are grateful to have that instituted and also to be able to have some bit of regularization for the staff there in that small department. And so we look forward to 2023 being able to strengthen the work that we do in combating gender-based violence. Like I said, we look forward to working with the police force as they move forward in terms of training of all our law enforcement officers who are our first responders in incidents of gender-based and domestic violence. And we also seek to continue strengthening our partnerships with the NGOs. Now, we recognize that a very big problem that we have when it comes to addressing gender-based violence is we have an absence of social housing and safe houses to place women who might be in these situations. We currently do not have a government-run center or safe house. However, we do appreciate the work that our NGO partners do to provide shelter services. And so as part of the budget, we do have money that the ministry offers and for subvention to some of these shelters to make sure that they can continue the work as we seek to identify a more long-term and sustainable solution to providing some sort of safe house and safe shelter and social protection housing, so that we can really strengthen the ecosystem when it comes to removing women or enabling women, facilitating them to exit domestic violence situations. It really is a complex issue when it comes to domestic violence. It's not as easy as, oh, well, why she don't just leave? And we can please stop saying that. Don't ever say that to a woman who has experienced domestic violence, okay? Just gonna put that out there for everybody to know. This. Yes, so don't ever say, oh, why she don't just leave? That's not okay to say, okay? That's not okay to say. Because we don't understand or recognize the complexity around what it means to be in a situation of domestic violence. Sometimes it's a matter of you just don't have anywhere else to go. Sometimes you literally just don't have the money or the resources to exit the situation. Sometimes you really, the level of domination or dependency is so extreme that the thinking is that it may just be better to stay in this situation, because how else are you going to find support and help? And that's another thing that I was just gonna say. Thank you, member. So the stigma and the shame that victims may experience, and this is both women and men, the level of shame that individuals carry being in these situations can really be silencing, because there's an assumption that domestic violence only happens to a certain type of person. But this is actually not true. It can happen to anyone. And you can say as much as you like until it happens to you. And so, we really want to encourage the public to offer more compassion and less judgment, because we don't need that. That's not helpful. So more compassion and less judgment as we really work to raise awareness around the issue and seek to address it legislatively as well as structurally and systematically and institutionally. It's a very complex problem. And so we are committed, I'm definitely committed to seeing how we can move the dial forward in any and every way. So thank you very much, and I'm grateful to have a leader, Prime Minister, who is also committed, and a cabinet in support of that. So thank you very much. Now, similarly and connected, we have the Department of Probation and Child Protection Services. Now, the work that PCPS does, so that's Probation and Child Protection Services, I've referred to it as PCPS. The work that they do is obviously directly related to the protection of children and child justice. And so oftentimes the Department of Gender Affairs and Probation and Child Protection Services have to work together, because when we have, let's say, a mother or a woman who is in a situation of domestic violence and she has a child, that child may also similarly experience some violence, some abuse, some neglect. That is when Probation and Child Protection Services have to come into being. We have legislation, we have acts that actually guide the work of this department. So we have the Child Justice Act, we have the Child Welfare Act, and so these legislation actually guide the work of our probation and child protection and child justice officers. So some of the work that we want to do moving forward in 2023 is, of course, we want to increase the awareness and presence and the efficiency of this department and make sure that our staff are equipped and trained to deal with the plethora of issues that come to them. Part of the advocacy and awareness is so people can really understand what the jurisdiction of probation and child protection services is. I think sometimes members of the public may be confused as to what is really an issue of custody versus what is an issue for child welfare. So, just a point for persons to understand, if you and your partner have a disagreement about who gets the child versus who doesn't get the child, that's a custody issue. However, if it jumps into the realm of the child is being neglected, the child is being abused, the child is being harassed, then you call probation and child protection services and you say the child's welfare is in danger, it's not being very well taken care of, their well-being is being neglected by their parents, one or both. You call probation and child protection services. That is the work that we do in terms of protecting our children. And if there was an impression given previously that the state doesn't care about children because we don't see enough or we don't hear enough about PCPS, we want to assure the public that that is not the case. That as the minister, we want to make sure that people know we care a lot about our children, and whatever resources that this department needs, we're committed to making sure that they have it. And so in 2023, we can look forward to improving our foster care programming. So within this budget, we've actually been able to allow for a slight increase in the foster care allowance. So our foster care programming is very important and sits within this department because we provide for foster parents. Sometimes we have instances where we do need to remove children from their biological parents, and our foster parents and our foster programming really allows us to ensure that these children can be placed into a loving and healthy home environment. And so we are able to facilitate, and we've been able to increase the foster care allowance through this budget so that the amount that these foster parents get can keep pace with obviously inflation and the needs, because children cost money. And so we look forward to that from this budget. We also look forward to seeing a project that has been funded by USAID to continue in relation to juvenile justice reform. So that's the probation aspect of probation and child protection services. We also try to deal with young people who may be tagged as more problematic in society. And so we've been able to thankfully gain some funding from these agencies to support our juvenile justice reform. We're grateful for that investment. This year we also would have started and initiated reviews for the legislation around our Child Welfare Board and their roles and responsibilities. And so we look forward to continuing that work and move forward towards revision of this legislation and potential amendments to this act in the future. I want to take the opportunity to express great thanks and appreciation to the members of the Probation and Child Welfare Board. That would have been the last board that was it for the past 3 years. That board was under the leadership of the previous chair, Mr. Maurice Williams. We're really grateful for the work that board would have done and the former chair would have done. Under Mr. Williams' leadership and guidance, we were able to evolve our child justice and protection system, and it was particularly during a challenging time during COVID-19. And by steering the ship and by taking charge, we are now on course to continue building on the lessons learned to respond to the needs of our children and our young people who come into conflict, who might have challenges adjusting in society, and so particularly in our post-COVID context. And so thank you to the members of the past welfare board and the past chair. We are grateful and we do recognize the work that you would have done to establish and move the dial forward on our child justice and protection system. We're also very grateful to the international donors who continue to support the department. So we have UNICEF, UN Women, USAID, PAHO, the UPR Trust Fund. thank you very much for the financial and technical assistance that is provided to the department and the ministry. It has been extremely helpful and useful, and we continue to look forward to this. A lot of the work that we do in social development is really, really supported by these multi-agencies and these international donors, because a lot of the work is really centered around human services, and we seek to ensure that we preserve human rights. Social protection, again, is about the welfare and the well-being of individuals and people, and we do that within the framework of the numerous conventions that we are signed onto. And so we're grateful to have these multi-agency partners, these international donors, to really help to supplement our budget, which can sometimes exceed based on the programming and the work that we have to do. So we're thankful for that, and we look forward to continued partnership and support. I also want to express a very hearty thank you and appreciation to the outgoing permanent secretary, who's Mrs. Janelle Lewis Tafari of the Ministry of Social Development and Gender Affairs. Mrs. Lewis would have spent her entire time as a public servant in the civil service at the Ministry of Social Development and Gender Affairs. She's now being called upon to use those years of experience to craft a more dynamic and responsive new Ministry of Youth Empowerment, Aging and Disabilities. So she is transitioning out of Social Development and Gender Affairs and is going to be the new permanent secretary. She is the new permanent secretary for the Ministry of Youth Empowerment, Aging and Disabilities. She's not going to be too far away, because I'm now going to move into how these two ministries are going to work together moving forward. And so thank you very much to Ms. Lewis for her years of service within Social Development and Gender Affairs. So now we are going to move on to youth empowerment, aging and disabilities. Madam Speaker, the decision to combine these areas was very deliberate and intentional. We don't do things willy-nilly on this side of the government. You see, Madam Speaker, transformation towards a sustainable small island state really requires us to engage all demographics of our population, because our people are really and truly our most valuable asset. And all of our people, regardless of ability, regardless of age, regardless of sex, gender, whatever it is, all of us have something to contribute, and all of us can be productive once we are able to be accommodated and enabled in the ways that we need. And so with the establishment of this new ministry, this SKNLP-led administration really demonstrates its commitment to empowering our young people, supporting and enabling our older persons and our persons with disabilities. We also decided, when we think about the combination of these three areas, we're really looking to also cultivate a culture where we have an ease of flow with, the transfer of knowledge, or transgenerational relationships, where we want to cultivate that culture of more collaboration across these demographics and across these areas. So, the vision, of course, is, to see how we can cultivate a culture where we have our young people taking care of our older persons, and our older persons transferring that knowledge and supporting and encouraging our younger persons, and also learning from our young people. And of course, also our recognition of the differently abled, and just sharing, being able to honor a different perspective of living and existing in the world that we have. And so it was very deliberate and intentional, because the thrust with this ministry is really to to improve and vamp up programming where we have collaborations across these areas. And we really have to do this. We really have to be proactive in the way we think about our aging and our disabled, because the demographics of our federation is showing that our population is shifting. It's shifting into an aging population. And what that really means is that we expect to have more persons over the age of 62 and fewer persons under the age of 5. And that's already existing. That's just global trends, because reality is young people, young women just have fewer and fewer children, and because, of our quality of life, we have life expectancy is increased. So we have, I think we have like 10 centenarians in St. Kitts and Nevis, because life is good here, thanks to God. And so, on the label, thank you very much, member. And so, never. God like order and good governance too, Okay. So, he does. Order is the first law of the kingdom. My father says that all the time. So, Madam Speaker, the point is that we have an aging population, and so we really do need to start thinking strategically and thinking proactively about how we can engage our older persons who are also very vibrant and very capable and still have a lot to offer. And so how we can engage them, and even for our more elderly persons, see how we can help to assist and facilitate them with aging with dignity. And so the 2023 estimates that we have made budget allocations for the establishment of a unit for elderly enrichment and a unit for disability services.
Indulgence, Honourable Member, you have 15 minutes left on your allotted time.
Okay. Thank you. Noted. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I'm taking up all the space today. And so we have allotted, for the budget allocations have made provision for the establishment of these units. And of course, initially they're going to be very small, probably like a staff of 3. But as I would have mentioned previously, we would have already, through the Ministry of Social Development, been offering services for our elderly in the form of home care assistance. And so that programming would now be underneath the Ministry of Youth Empowerment, Aging and Disabilities. And so our Elderly Enrichment Unit will be supervising and coordinating the work that was already being done by our home care officers, and we've actually sought to offer some training to a new cohort of home care officers so that we can improve and increase the assistance that we're able to provide persons in the Federation with supporting and just kind of helping to assist where elderly are at home. And so we look forward to that. Of course, this cohort of persons are on the STEP program, thanks to our member for number 1, and that was his brainchild, so we're grateful to make sure that we can have this assistance. Because of course, some of the plans know, the Elderly Enrichment Unit, they will know, as I would have mentioned, they now manage the home care programming that we would have had under social development, and we've already, the commitment that we had in the SKNLP manifesto and over the campaign trail of establishing and instituting our elderly daycares, that is going to be piloted in 2023. So the plan for us for 2023, we hope to facilitate, we plan to use our community centers. So we plan to pilot our daycare centers for the elderly in 2 or 3 community centers around the islands, so that we can offer more programming to engage our seniors in very healthy and interactive ways that we know they will appreciate and enjoy, so that they can, age well and age with dignity. And, so some of the programming during the month of older persons, which was in October, we had a slew of activities and events that our older persons and our seniors really enjoyed. And so what we really want to do is extend that so that we can have that ongoing throughout the year and not just packed into 1 month. So the idea around our daycare centers is, for our seniors to be able to be transported to our centers and to be there for a few hours throughout the day so that they can interact with each other. And also we hope to have our young volunteers, our youth, have the opportunity to come in and offer some companionship and play some games. So that whole transgenerational aspect and approach, because again, we're trying to cultivate a culture of care. We're all about care. Dr. Drew cares. So we want to make sure that we cultivate that culture across the board, because we want to make sure that our seniors are cared for and that our young people learn from the knowledge that our older people have to bring. Okay? And so the daycare centers are coming. I know the honorable member for number 1 then said he wants us to have a prom for our seniors. And I know they're going to love that, because, old people like to party. A prom, I'm telling you. Because, ain't only young people supposed to have proms, And so, it's just an opportunity. It's an opportunity for it's an opportunity for our seniors to also dress up and have a red carpet. We need to treat them well too. They deserve it. We're not yet, but you're coming. Maybe it will be in October, but that is one of the things that my senior minister said he wants us to do, and I'm like, yes, okay, we're doing it. Okay? Okay, now for our disability services unit, we also look forward to working with our persons who are differently abled in this community. I would have met with the Disabilities Association, would have visited Addie's Place, who had their open house just a few weeks ago, and we really want to give a shout out to these associations, these organizations, not just Addie's Place and the Association for Persons with Disabilities, but also the Nevis Blind, Light, and Visually Impaired Society, Carding Home, the Flamboyant Nursing Home, our Cotton Thomas Comprehensive School, the Cicely Brown Integrated School, and the Spectrum Services Center. All of these are non-governmental organizations and agencies that work to provide support services, training, education, and the like for our persons who are differently abled. And of course, the new Disability Services Unit would be helping to continue supporting these agencies, these organizations in their work. And we plan to really work on finalizing a national disability policy, which has been in the works for some time, from what I understand. And we want to be able to formalize that policy, complete it. We also want to increase advocacy and awareness around persons with disabilities. We really want to remove the stigma and have people stop thinking about disability as a major health problem, because it's not really always that. So we want people to just recognize our persons with disabilities as individuals who are just differently abled, So, they have a lot to contribute still, and they can be productive. However, they just need special accommodations. And there's nothing wrong with a special accommodation. Sometimes if you can't see too good, you put on some glasses. That's all, you know what I mean? And so we really want to increase our advocacy and awareness around that. And of course, one thing that we would have heard from our associations is that they really want opportunities for training and education, and opportunities for more job attachments and internships. And so we really want to see how we can facilitate that. And so we look forward to having our unit set up and established with our small, very small staff complements to be able to coordinate some of this work. And so we're grateful to be able to have this. And again, this is a promise that was made on the campaign trail by the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party, and we are happy to be delivering and moving that forward. How am I for time? Can I beg for more time right now, please? 6 minutes? Well, I'm going to ask for the time still right now, because I'm going to need more than that, please. Oh, at the end? Oh, okay, sorry, okay, got it. Okay, well, we are on youth empowerment. So the Department of Youth Empowerment has always been long-standing and established, but now, we are at a point where we are established as a ministry, of course, again, in combination with aging and disability. And, the plans for programming for the department is for youth and youth focus to become mainstreamed. We want, youth to be mainstreamed. We would have known that engaging young people in our development thrust is a priority for this administration. It has been expressed time and time again by the Prime Minister, and I remember for number 8. And so we, as the Youth Department, plan to increase our work and increase the presence that we have by making sure the department can become like the centralized hub for everything young and youthful. And so we really want to spread our programming out over the year and become a lot more vibrant, be seen more. And so we want to begin doing this work by really encouraging youth groups and youth organizations to re-energize, to become re-established, and to come to taking the lead in your communities. And I would hope that my presence as a member in this cabinet giving young people a bit of motivation to come out from, behind their screens and to get together to take ownership of developmental thrusts as we try to become a sustainable small island state. One of the things the trends that we've seen is in the youth department is that we don't have as many youth organizations registering with us. And so we really want to reestablish the registration process for our youth groups and our youth organizations, and for them to recognize the support that the department is willing to give in terms of capacity building and support to these organizations. Of course, we recognize the established organizations that continue to do work. Of course, we have the St. Kitts National Youth Parliamentary Association, we have our volunteer corps, we have Pathfinders, and we have these organizations that have been long established and that continue to do the work as youth organizations. But we want to continue to encourage, especially in our church youth groups, our other community groups, our sports clubs. Please, reach out to the youth department and just let us know who you are. Let us know that you are out here, and let us know that you're interested in being part and parcel of whatever opportunities, whatever resources, whatever training, whatever small micro grants or funding we might be able to find to support our youth groups and youth organizations, because we are serious about being able to develop and empower our young people, and we want to make sure that we support them through these structures so that they can volunteer more. Volunteerism is very important for our young people, and we want to be able to make sure that they're supported. I would have held a ministers forum as part of Youth Month, and some of the things the young people were saying that they want, they want to see more sporting complex and facilities, and I would have had conversation with the honorable member for number 4 about what is the plan for sports, Minister of Sports. And so, we would have heard about the plans for sports, and, I asked about, they said, our young people want indoor facilities. They really do. I actually saw a young person post on Facebook the other day, talking about how we can't have no indoor sporting facilities and such. So I want the young people to know that we are aware, and the minister is aware, and the minister have plans, because they didn't ask him, what is we doing about this? And so, it's on the way. So young people know it's on the way. You have been heard, and your message is being conveyed to the people who can take action, and we're doing it. So asking people for a bit of patience, but we do recognize that sports is an area that is really an opportunity for young people. It's an opportunity for educational advancement and progress. It's an opportunity to maintain your health and wellness. It's an opportunity for social skills development, for leadership, for discipline. And so we know it's very important, sports, and we want to make sure that the facilities are available. So please know that it is part of the vision and the plan towards our sustainable small island state. Remember that. That's our chorus today. Sustainable small island state. Okay, I want to take this opportunity just to talk a little bit about the interministerial collaborations, right? So as a youth department, the objective is for us to mainstream youth. So what that means is we want to be able to have across all of the ministries that in the strategic plans, in the visions of the individual ministries, that you're also thinking, how are we going to engage the young people in this plan? And so Of course, interministerial partnerships is a big part of that. And we've already had some of that done in this year. We would have seen that through tourism. We would have had the visit to the CFBC, where we're trying to connect our tourism operators, our hoteliers with young people so that they can train and enter the tourism market at an earlier point and so they can start their careers. So I want to really thank the member for number 2 and the Minister for Tourism for taking that initiative. And we look forward to it being continued, because it's really positive, because, you know, job creation and job opportunities is a major concern for our young people. And so on that note, we also look forward to partnerships with the small business and creative economy. We do recognize that our young people are very creative. They're very creative, and, you know, we seek opportunities for them to display their talents and be compensated for that and trained to see how they can develop these skills into entrepreneurial ventures. And so we're happy to have the Ministry of Small Business and Development and Creative Economy so that, you know, they can be connected there. We also look forward to continued partnerships with environment and climate action. My dear Honorable Senator, of course, always thinks about young people too, and we would have seen that demonstration when she sent, was it 10 young people? 10 young people to COP. They went all the way to Egypt. I didn't even get to go to Egypt. 10-member delegation, but 4 young people, my apologies. But 4 young people, they went.
Honorable member, honorable member, you are out of time.
Totally?
Yes.
Oh, may I request an additional amount of time to wrap up, please, Madam Speaker?
Honorable members, the honorable senator has requested an additional bit of time.
30 minutes.
The maximum of which she has is 30.
I'll take it.
Those in favor? Those against? You may proceed, honorable senator.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Okay. So I'll wrap up soon. But yes, the point I was making is the partnerships that already existed, and so we would have seen, you know, young people being considered to be part of our push towards environmental sustainability and climate action through their participation at COP, which is a major conference. And remember the major win we got at COP, which was the commitment to establish a fund for loss and damages. And of course, that's very important to us as a sustainable island, small island state, because we are susceptible to the impacts and effects of climate change. And so, you know, having these partnerships are very important to us, and we want to be able to extend the considerations of the youth voice and youth representation in all areas across the ministry. And so, you know, before I wrap up, I want to talk about the plans that we have for 2023 through the youth department. Of course, you know, we do plan to maintain our flagship programming, which is our annual summer youth camp. And I just want people to know that the senior minister done say that he expects this youth summer camp to be the biggest of the big, the most extravagant, because it is the 40th anniversary for summer camp. And so we really have plans to bring back alumni from camp. We really have plans to connect with our private sector for sponsorship and support, with facilitators and volunteers to provide a summer camp program that is really beneficial, that is fun, that is educational, that is edifying, that offers our young people new opportunities and new insights. And so we really, there's one thing you can look forward to in terms of the youth department's plans for this year. I want to take this opportunity also to highlight we talk about, you know, interministerial partnerships, that the first interministerial partnership we expect to complete or execute in the new year is one with the Prime Minister's office, and that is with our 25 most remarkable teens who would have received their awards in November. So the Prime Minister is hosting our 25 remarkable teens to a lovely dinner. And, the plan is, of course, engage our young people and to start brainstorming the ideas for community projects that is part of the Most Remarkable Teen program. And so they'll be sit down with the Prime Minister and we will, start talking about some of their ideas for projects that they can do in their community. So I want to thank the Prime Minister for his commitment to that as our first interministerial partnership with the Youth Department. Thank you for taking the lead, Prime Minister. And so, of course, I also take this opportunity to really thank the staff of the Youth Department. We want to acknowledge the contribution and the work that Mr. Priya Liebert would have done as director for the past few years. At our volunteer recognition award at the end of our Youth Month activities, he would have made the announcement that he's transitioning out of the Youth Department and moving on to other things. And so we want to thank him very much for his leadership for the Youth Department over the years. And we thank the staff who continue to do the work. And just kind of look forward to the Youth Department doing more and being more visible, because we really want to demonstrate that our young people, the leadership capabilities that they do have, and they have really great ideas. Because I'm young. We have great ideas and great competence and great capabilities, and the department really wants to facilitate that growth, empowerment, and development as we move towards a sustainable island state. And of course, as the Ministry of Youth Empowerment, Aging, and Disabilities, that thrust will be done in collaboration and togetherness as we seek to facilitate transgenerational partnerships, transgenerational relationships, and knowledge transfer and support for each other where that's a mutual relationship. And so we are grateful for the opportunity, and that's just a sign of proactive vision. And so we're grateful for that. Now, Madam Speaker, as I wrap up, finally, I want to really bring everything full circle, and all of the things that I would have expressed that the different departments under the purview of the Ministries of Social Development, Gender Affairs, as well as Youth Empowerment, Aging, and Disabilities, all of the things that we're doing, the vision that we have, it's really the vision of this St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party-led administration to transform our federation towards a sustainable island state. That is, towards a position where we are self-sufficient, where we are resilient, where we are strong, and where we manifest who we are when we say that we small but we taller. And so to achieve this transformation, of course, and to realize this goal, again, remember that we are prioritizing social protection. And under that social protection is, as an important pillar for sustainability, we have these two ministries that are dedicated to ensuring that all demographics of our society come along with us and are not left behind. And so, as Minister with responsibility for social development, gender affairs, youth empowerment, aging, and disabilities, I am quite pleased with the support, and I'm very satisfied with the budget allotments that have been provided within these 2023 estimates. And so I am grateful to be part of this team that seeks to move forward to transforming our federation so that we can become that sustainable small island state, which is very doable. We have great potential here, we have great people, and so we are really committed to investing in those people and ensuring that they are protected. And so, Madam Speaker, it is a new day. And I trust that these estimates demonstrate the better way that we are going in. And with that, may it please you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you to the Honourable Senator Iselene Filler. Honourable members, I wish to suspend the House for 5 minutes, briefly. 5.
You're welcome, telling me I'm home again. It's the spirit of Christmas the season of hope and joy, a moment of
one for me, as it is the first time, Madam Speaker, that I am in the House and I'm able to join the debate on this national budget in the capacity as a member of the government bench, Madam Speaker. In my first two presentations of the budget, I sat, Madam Speaker, on the benches opposite. And you would have heard the honorable member opposite talking about, the prophetic word that I gave, that I will not remain over there for too long. And I give God thanks for this opportunity where I can represent the people. But while sitting there, Madam Speaker, I would have seen members on the bench supporting faulty budgets. Some were begging and pleading for additional money. And of course, you know what happened after that. But I purposed in my heart, Madam Speaker, then and know that I would never, as a member of this House, seek to support or critique the budget based on where I sit in the House. I am determined to focus closely on how the budgetary provisions for 2023 can best ably bring relief to families, better educate our children, and better equip our St. Kitts and Nevis to become a robust, progressive, and sustainable advancing country. I want to outline, Madam Speaker, how, in partnership with other ministries and departments, the Ministry of Education, Youth Empowerment, Human Settlement, Gender Affairs, Aging and Disability, Social Development, and Ecclesiastical and Faith-Based, seeks to offer meaningful solutions for the people in the form of public policy formulation and action in this fiscal year 2023. Through the various departments and units within these ministries, I pledge to improve the ability of government service to the young, the elderly, the aspiring homeowners, and the vulnerable among us. The primary goal of this budget is to ensure that all the people are positively impacted as we aim to prepare our people for advancement under a new economic and social thrust, Madam Speaker. And just before I move on, I think it's fitting for me to commend my junior minister on the report that she laid before us this morning. And sometime during my presentation, I will add a little bit here and there. But I speak to, Madam Speaker, education, because as you know it, as one of my students, that's part of my passion. But holistic, and I read something, Madam Speaker, holistic learning is a cornerstone to pivoting a society from operating without clear focus and planning to one in which clear priorities of sustainable advancement of the people and the society are the heart of all government planning and action. There must be education that is geared towards securing the improvement of our people at all levels, including the creation of more robust businesses and home ownership initiatives, Madam Speaker. The Ministry of Education is mandated in 2023 to effectively utilize $111.9 million in spending to ensure that our schools are safe spaces for our children and teachers alike. Madam Speaker, it's quite a lot, but I was really, I am grateful, but more would have been done if I had gotten a little extra, but I am grateful. There will be a vigorous program, Madam Speaker, of renovation, maintenance, and the general upkeep of our schools. Something went wrong here, Madam Speaker. I changed the page. Sorry about that. Yeah, I know, Madam Speaker, and as a scout, you must always be prepared. And when technology tends to act up, you go to the original. So as I was saying, Madam Speaker, the Ministry of Education is mandated in 2023 to effectively utilize the amount that they gave. And we are going to be vigorously moving towards renovation, maintenance, and the general upkeep of schools. In 2023, our focus will be on outfitting all bathrooms in our schools to be hygienic and befitting of dignity with which we should treat our students. Focus will also be made to overhaul, Madam Speaker, the electrical infrastructure in our schools. The light should be working and electrical outlets should be adequate and in working order in all our schools. We have budgeted to seriously undertake this initiative in 2023. Madam Speaker, it was real painful for me when I visited all of my schools, and I said I visited all high schools, all primary school, all private schools, all daycare centers, all private daycare centers, Madam Speaker, in just a short space of time. Because I came to Nevis, thank you very much, Honorable Member. And as I said, it was a bit painful for me when I saw the state that some of our schools are in. And I am determined that I will fix that. Because, Madam Speaker, some may remember that a school improvement initiative was also promised in last year's budget, in the 2022 budget. The difference between the 2023 budget allocation, Madam Speaker, and that which was promised in 2022 is that there is now an administration which is serious about delivering the programs Safer Schools for our children, and we intend to deliver just that, Madam Speaker. We intend to deliver it through the expansion of the school maintenance unit within the Ministry of Education. We intend to hire and partner with more skilled maintenance workers to keep our school plant at peak readiness to support learning. Our teachers and students will be better served, Madam Speaker, through the policy actions of the Ministry of Education through provision of this 2023 budget. I must interject, Madam Speaker, that I went ahead of the Honorable Minister of Finance, in the sense that I was waiting for the money's allocation to be given to start the maintenance unit. But as the person responsible for the STEP program, we have some skilled STEP workers there, and immediately I put 4 of them to work, and they were able to do a fantastic job at the Tucker Clark Primary School, tidying off some classrooms, covering over some tables that were there since I attended that school, and I commend them. Oh boy, don't remind me. We can't allow, Madam Speaker, our schools to remain in this state. Imagine, Madam Speaker, my short time, as I said, I visited all of the schools. Not only did I visit, in that short space of time, Madam Speaker, I was able to get a comprehensive audit done for the needs of all of our schools, including our early childhood daycare centers. And, Madam Speaker, when I pull from the document, focusing on renovation of our schools, the window initiative that we are doing in terms of the replacement of our windows, all of the replacement of the windows for all of the schools that I just indicated and the early childhood centers were coming up to less than $14 million, Madam Speaker. But rather than focusing on the things that are needed to be done, we had an administration prior to, and you heard the PM, the Prime Minister, the honorable member for number 8, spoke about it in his budget presentation. They thought it was best to invest $14,427,999.40 extra, Madam Speaker, on managing dirt, as I have said, at the new site. But I visited there, and it's not only dirt, you know, Madam Speaker. It is dirt and what we call, when we was growing up, hog meat. A lot of hog meat over there for $14 million, when that could have been invested in upgrading our schools. But, of course, but Madam Speaker, I have been charged with the responsibility of delivering the real deal in education and my other ministries, and I've taken it on very, very seriously, and I will deliver that deal, Madam Speaker. Our spending in the Ministry of Education in 2023 will also ensure that our schools will become centers of excellence with focused specialization in various secondary and primary schools across the island, through an enhanced approach to curriculum development and a more vigorous approach to curriculum monitoring and evaluation. The Ministry of Education will, in 2023, undertake a focused national assessment of the syllabuses, or the syllabi, as the English experts might want to hear, for better learning outcome, Madam Speaker. We want to be certain that our schools are effective in serving our children and meeting the country's social and economic projections. Madam Speaker, simply put, we are jumping out of the box in 2023 when it comes to education. Skills would be now taught in our primary schools. Madam Speaker, are you going to want to go back to school? Schools of linguistics, schools of fashion designs, schools of the creative and performing arts, Madam Speaker, just to name a few. And we're starting this September, like I say, is School of Excellence we want to present. Madam Speaker, in 2023, the government of St. Kitts and Nevis will undertake a meaningful start of the work on the Bastia High School. After many false starts over the last 7 years, Madam Speaker, and if I can remind you, I used to be an athlete. Yes, 100, 200, 400 meter runner. And once you had a false start, in the modern days now, in our days you could have had many false starts. But in the modern time, after a false start, 1 or 2, you're disqualified. But Madam Speaker, after all those false starts, reality came. August 5th, disqualified. But I am committed, Madam Speaker, in building the new Bastia High School right there on the original spot. And Madam Speaker, I don't know if you drive up there, but the work has begun to demolish the building on the existing site. And what was real heartwarming for me when I visited, when I saw some 8 small contractors up there removing the roof and the 2x4s and that kind of stuff, spreading it right across, Madam Speaker. Because I've seen in other cases, Madam Speaker, one company carry home close to 800,000 on certain jobs that they had to do. And I said that would not happen under my watch, and we shared the pie. So the roofs are almost done, with the exception of the western side that will be delayed because Carnival will be using the grounds for parking, so we did not want to interfere. But we are working on that. And of course, Madam Speaker, the government would clear the site in preparation for building, finalizing concepts drawings for the new school, and begin mobilizing, or the mobilization of the building, just about 2024. Money in the budget to start all of what I just spoke about, Madam Speaker. And we are going to do it. It has been too long, Madam Speaker, that students of the Bastia High School have been languishing and in an inadequate space that should have been temporary, and is way past 7 years now. 7 years of temporary with no sight of permanent solution, Madam Speaker, is too long. But thank God the 2023 budget begins the march towards building the new Bastia High School. 2023 will be the start towards establishing a new home as well, Madam Speaker, for the Cotton Thomas Comprehensive School. Work begins in the new fiscal year to create a satellite campus for the Cotton Thomas Comprehensive School in what today is known as the Estridge Primary School. I think I made in one of my presentations in Parliament that we are merging the Estridge Primary School and the Edgar T, and Cotton Thomas will occupy that. So, Madam Speaker, it is going to be a sight to see. Because you know me, when I'm negotiating, I go in for everything. So while we are getting that school done, Madam Speaker, I raised the concern of our Spectrum Center. And I was successful in being able to get the Spectrum Center, Madam Senator, will be also housed over there. So everything will be in one space, but of course, 2 independent spaces. We are serious about taking care of our students, Madam Speaker. Economies of scales and other factors of efficiency have made it prudent, Madam Speaker, for the government to the amalgamating and the learning and the social cohesion possibilities of teaching the children of the mansion and tabernacle in one learning space. As such, in 2023, the 2023 budget provides for the upgrade of the Edgar T. campus. We're not just moving the students, but we're upgrading the school, Madam Speaker. Because I was told monies were given out for work to be done at the school, that's Edgar T. in Tabernacle, and some of the work were not completed. Roofs went on, however, I don't know if it's a tailor put them on or a contractor, and monies paid and collected for the fence, and no fence up to this day. And the record shows that monies were disbursed to get a fence. But we are moving forward, Madam Speaker, and we're upgrading that school down there. Madam Speaker, higher learning is a priority of this government. The preparation for future leadership, in this country comes through training, and that is not always affordable to our young people. As a result, access to information that allows our best and brightest to apply for existing scholarships is important. Very important. In 2023, the Ministry of Education will establish a functional scholarship desk. I said 2023, but I should let you know, Madam Speaker, that that has already been put in place. But I'm now getting a little sugar cake to be able to get other persons there to go after the scholarships wherever they are. This unit, Madam Speaker, in the ministry will create a hub for interested citizens to get information on the availability of higher learning and other training opportunities. And I'm happy because the Prime Minister made a statement already that we now have access to Germany, and we are going after them wherever they are, Madam Speaker. One of the aims of the scholarship desk is to build relationship between the ministry and tertiary institution, both at home and abroad, Madam Speaker. Because our citizens must have access to higher learning that is affordable. Very key. The ministry has already entered into discussions with schools such as the Western Illinois Ross University and the University of the Virgin Islands, and of course, Madam Speaker, I attended Florida Memorial University in Miami. I don't put things in place. I'm just waiting on the right time when I get an opportunity so that I can travel. And I'm going to go with an empty suitcase because I know when I return, I will be bringing back scholarships, because our discussion thus far, Madam Speaker, it's expected to bear great fruits, Madam Speaker. I want to say to you, the people, through you, Madam Speaker, that the Ministry of Education will unveil its continuity of learning program in 2023. With the kind of assistance from CDB and other areas, I listened to the member opposite yesterday talking about the one-to-one laptops, concerns taken, but as the honorable member for number 3 was indicating that these are things that can be fixed, and they will be fixed because we are rolling out the one-to-one laptop, Madam Speaker. And I think it's fitting for me to indicate to the Honorable House that although we were getting some through CDB, 8,000 devices, the Honorable Prime Minister taking a feather out of one of my many caps, begging, was able to do a good job. And we added 3,000 more devices to the 8,000 that we did. And of course, as I told, because you get out, you did your own, and then I just thought, because I was offered, I said, you know what? It's one federation. I don't want to be greedy, but, and remember they do it means testing, and you need to make sure that the internet is out ready and those kind of stuff. So instead of giving you more than 1,000 and over there sitting down, I said, let me start you off with 1,000, and I'm certain that you are very much grateful for that. But of course, Madam Speaker, our policy on education is not just safer school. It is built on the pillar of access to education for all. Very, very important. In education, the government will pursue an agenda that is holistic and empowering for all. The $111.9 million is just not a series of capital and recurrent expenditure items. They are an investment in the future of this country. It means, Madam Speaker, by the close of 2023, every dollar budgeted on these programs should have been correctly spent for the onward advancement of our young society. And of course, Madam Speaker, I am a good manager. So I have to make sure I manage this money, because guess what, Madam Speaker? Next year can't be this amount. It got to be some more. So once you after trusted me, the Honorable Minister for Finance is going to say, give him what he needs. Madam Speaker, I move on now to housing and human settlement and ecclesiastical affairs. In providing housing solutions for this St. Kitts and Nevis, it is important, Madam Speaker, for us to put certain things into perspective. This Labour administration holds the record, and I want to believe I could say it in the Caribbean, of being able to deliver most affordable homes to our ordinary people per capita. And we made a political promise during our campaign that housing will be one of the priorities. And this is a #1 item on the agenda. Soon as God allows us to see 2023 January, homes will be delivered to about 200 families. And I'm hearing the honorable member here saying that Central Bastille will be getting their homes. Is that only Central Bastille? West Bastille, St. Paul, number 6, number 5, number 3, number 4, number 1, of course, and number 7. Well, we'll see what happens over there. No, we don't have a problem in it, because the building of these homes, Madam Speaker, is both public and private involvement. And it might be so much or so many that the honorable member, of course, over on the opposite side will be able to benefit. I can't build no house now unless I build 8, because it's 8 had the money. But Madam Speaker, what I like about the new initiative or the new housing initiative or the revolution, however you want to record it, it will be one filled with innovation and technology. Smart homes, as the honorable member said. We just want the providers, the contractors, to start thinking the way how we are. Turning on your lights, using your phone before you reach your place. And we're going to try these things, you know, Madam Speaker, because the honorable member from number 3 the other day on his phone was doing all sorts of things in this house. People probably think that somebody in the house going in the fridge door opening and all that kind of stuff. So we are bringing the technology to our people, the IT professional. We have such an awesome team, Madam Speaker, well versed, and we are grateful. The Ministry of Housing and Human Settlement will in 2023 seeks to incorporate the government home building into the post-COVID economic recovery of St. Kitts and Nevis. Job creation for our builders and other skilled workers will be integral to the further advancement of the construction sector. And I hear them every day. They can't wait for this to really open up. The aim, Madam Speaker, of our housing initiative is not only to provide accommodation and a housing solution for our people, but to provide significant employment for our skilled and unskilled workers, Madam Speaker. And while I'm here, I must interject, Madam Speaker, that our skilled workers, our ordinary, and what we like to refer to as our small contractors, I am going to make a plea this morning in this honorable house, this afternoon. Because from my short experience being the minister responsible for housing, it's very troubling or troublesome when you see and hear of some of the things that's happening at NHC in regards to the construction of some of these homes. After people done move in the house, a year, 2 years, wall got to break down because maybe the plumber deem it as a small job, ain't take his time or her time, forget to stick a pipe or tape it so that no stones or anything could go down in it, and then we have all sorts of problems. What is comforting, Madam Speaker, and a quick run to Antigua for a funeral, you know, I still worked. I went to the National Housing Corporation down there because you need to look at good practices. And I recognize that there are quite a lot of similarities because my wife girlfriend, her best friend, happened to get one of the homes. And one morning we're there, she just moving in. Water for days in one of the rooms. Tiles lift up, are talking about Antigua. Only to find out, Madam Speaker, that when they put in one the pipe, they must have known that the pipe had a hole. And they instead of replacing it, they still finish the job and it's problem. We don't want this in this round of our housing revolution. We're asking our contractors to, and our skilled men and women to take pride in what they're doing, because when we have these, they're not hurting the government, because government go and government come and come back and we come back and we ain't going nowhere. But we got to make sure, Madam Speaker, that the same small man you're trying to help is the same small man making it difficult for the smaller people who you want to help. We got to be honest with whatever we are doing. And Madam Speaker, in the budget, you realize that $5 million was allocated for housing. And I guess somebody might ask why that amount. But you know, we are innovators. Homes will be coming from all sorts of places. We will be delivering them. But that $5 million there, I must say to my good people of East Bastia that will be going towards the completion of the West Street project that started, and we are going to complete it. They don't know this, but I'm not going to call any names, Madam Speaker, but I want to congratulate the 6 persons, the 6 new home owners or occupiers who will be receiving a telephone call, if they have not done so before Santa come down the chimney, that they will be getting the opportunity to be in a much better space. And I want to, you hope, well, everybody going to get. But it's only 6 I had over there, and he had about 2,500 applications, so you had to throw them in one sort of battle, and you know, that kind of, yes. But we are going to do that, Madam Speaker. And I give the assurance, like I did earlier, to all. But I have investigators out there trying to sniff out areas where homes could be built. And Pine Gardens, Madam Member for number 2, have a spot right there, so you might be the first set to get your 5. You want half it? Oh boy. Well, we'll work on it. But as I said, Madam Speaker, we are innovators. And I've started several conversations with potential investors. And I must say at this time that I was happy when I had a conversation, and I see some police officers here, so they'll feel very good to hear. The police credit union, after discussing with them about our newness in housing, they are jumping on board, Madam Speaker, and they are going to make some loans or monies available for the NHC to build some homes for our police officers. So we are happy that the police credit union is on board, and I believe, you know, once you start something, somebody else might feel jealous and want to come. So I say, all of you come, we must build homes. Madam Speaker, the ministry also desires to undertake a phased approach to improving the beauty of our communities by providing homes for our people on now abandoned and derelict properties in our communities. government will systematically, and I've been speaking to the AG, seek to identify ownership of these abandoned and derelict properties in various communities with a view, Madam Speaker, to modernize the areas. And of course, Madam Speaker, everything we do over here, we're going to do it the right way. So all of the entities will be involved, the legal, everybody. But what I want to bring to this honorable house here is that sometimes it's always good to have conversations with people who other people might think, you know what they're saying. And in having such one of those conversations, Madam Speaker, I was able to identify some of these owners in my constituency. Matter of fact, very close to where I grew up. And after I shared the ideas of what we intend to do, the people are excited, AG, about selling their lands so that we can rebuild and revitalize communities, Madam Speaker. So what we are going to do is to make sure that we do a pilot phase. And once you get one started, others are going to do it. And what we intend to do, Madam Speaker, because you know, living in certain areas are very sentimental to people. They get the land from their great-grandmother and they don't want to sell it, and they don't have no use for it, they're not coming back. What we intend to do, Madam Speaker, is when we get the opportunity to purchase these lots, we are going to make one of the spaces available to that family so that they hold on to that sentimental value. That boy may want to move out of Carty Alley. But when we develop Carty Alley and you know that you still got Clayton, you know you got something up Sebastian Street, you're going to feel proud about it, knowing that you would have assisted in beautifying our communities. And we're hoping to do about 40 of these in 2023. I see Honorable Senator looking at me. Sound like she has some person that she wants to assist. Excellent, and I welcome that. But in closing, Madam Speaker, on housing. No. On housing. Remember I said I got a trailer load of ministries, you know. But again, Madam Speaker, I make a plea. I find too often some of our very own, we are not kind to ourselves and to others. And when persons are given the opportunity to own a home and start to pay a mortgage, some people forget that government don't give free homes. Government provide opportunities to own. And Madam Speaker, my heart broke when meeting with NHC, they shared with me how much money we have out there for rent or mortgage. You have any idea, Madam Speaker? Just about $12 million are out there to be collected from persons who are not paying for their homes. That's not good enough, Madam Speaker. And if I am going to be the Minister of Housing to make a difference, I will. And as such, things will have to be done. You know what is even more painful, Madam Speaker? When the workers them at the institution and all of them are working hard, would be making their calls to people to remind them that you need to come in and pay. Some of them bold enough to tell them don't call back this number because such and such minister know that I wasn't working and they still gave me the house. So how am I to pay for the house? Is that responsible? I don't think so, Madam Speaker. So we are going to be doing a number of things in the cooperation to try and get persons to come in and pay what they're supposed to pay or what they can. What is even more painful is when you discover some of them, Madam Speaker, have their low-income homes on rent, charging people up to $1,250 a month, and their obligation for NHC is $475, and no part of the heart start to click to tell them that they need to give NHC the $475. Madam Speaker, we got to put an end to this. Everybody would need a home. I would think that they need a home. But if you can't, you just can't. And we will work with people. Some even creative. They start off with one bank account and you start to take the first month's pay. And then they shut down the account. And no more money come in. That is not going to continue, Madam Speaker. So I'm going to seek the honorable members in this house, as a teacher myself, to share their ideas as to how we would be able to fix this. Because at the end of the day, the country belongs to all of us. You see this paper I have in my hand here, Madam Speaker? From constituency number 1 to number 8 on it. With all the people them who, whether having difficulties or just ain't care, or feel that they get a gift, millions of dollars. Constituency number 7 alone. And whether the honorable member was in here or not, I was going to say it, so it's not because I just see him walking. Over $2 million to be collected. And the list goes on. My constituency in it, as I say, it's only $1 million, but it's $1 million too much. Number 2, 1.3 are coming, but you win the cake. Number 3, $1.3 million. That's why I asked the assistants. I'm happy that you asked me to do it. Honored. Number 4, $1.6 million. Number 5, very small, $812,000. Number 6, 1.4. Number 7, as I said, 2 million plus. And number 8, $1.4 million. Madam Speaker, this is not good enough. So I've already given the instructions to the NHC Corporation, the new board, and they're working. We're going to come up with some sort of refinancing program where persons will come in and they tell us how much they can pay. And let us start at that level. If they say they could pay $300, we take the 3. Even though it's an 8, the mortgage supposed to be. Because at the end of the day, we need to be helping people, not hurting them. So when ministers or politicians or even supporters know that Mary Jane can't afford a house and you force her name up to get a house, and then Mary Jane and Peter Paul end up in this category, did you really assisted that person? I don't think so. Thank you for that little lesson. Now, Madam Speaker, I move on to the area of ecclesiastical affairs. And I'm happy to report that I met with the Christian Council and Evangelical Association and the Seventh Adventist Organization or representative. And we started a discussion, and I'm looking forward to a fruitful network. As a Christian myself, Madam Speaker, and this country is a God-fearing nation, it is important for us to make sure that these arms function and function well and also function fairly. So one of the discussions I had with them is that I expect them to be able to guide me so that I'll be able to assist in pushing the country in the direction that the country needs to go. But I see you a lot of times in church, Madam Speaker, so I know that you're quite aware that whatever we do, it cannot be seen hypocritical. You can't even talk on a matter for whether 5, 6 years, and then you're going to think, no, you want to address it, because in the sight and the eyes of God, you'll be seen, as hypocrites. So I am really looking forward to the relationship, and they've given me that assurance. I'm excited, just as how I'm excited about education. This part of my ministry I'm excited about, because in the very first meeting, Madam Speaker, we were able to come to an understanding, and the AG will guide me or other senior officials. As soon as next year starts, we are going to, or the announcement would be made before. We are going to identify a day that is going to be a day known to Kittitians and Nevisians, that is the day of praying and fasting for the nation and for families. We must establish a day. And I think what we did in our discussion, I could say it now, but we could always make changes. The last day in January. And this ain't going to be no just reading out of a book or just saying. It is a time when the church is going to really bombard heaven for the nation and for our families, if we are really serious about nation building and maintaining what God expects of us going forward. So when we establish this day, I don't want this church A1 to come, that church A1 to participate, or this one. No. It's everybody on board if we are true soldiers in God's army. So we'll get more information on that, Madam Speaker. But we are going to shut down. It's not a holiday, but it's going to be a time when your ministries will be able to go, pray, do what you have to do. You do it at home. And of course, we have other things. And we are going to do some stuff different. One of the events I'm going to do, we're going to bring all of our pastors, our ministers, our faith-based leaders together whether in a forum, a conference, or whatever, so that they can share their vision or what they think they can contribute differently towards nation building. So I am looking forward to greatness. I now move on to youth empowerment and aging and disabilities, just to support the honorable member. The work of the Ministry of Youth Empowerment, Aging and Disabilities is important to creating a more perfect society in which we protect the vulnerable and increase the capacities of all to function within the society. The budget helps us, Madam Speaker, as a government to continue to provide the frameworks that are necessary for the training and capacity building of our youths, given better policy direction for the aging and those living with special needs, and providing the required human resources deliver on the policy action. $2.5 million, as the honorable member indicated, is what was allocated to this ministry. And we are going to make it work, like I said in the past. You perform, you are rewarded with extra. And I want to commend the workers, the officers in these various ministries for the work that they have been doing. Because it was by divine intervention that we now have this new ministry. Because having done some work myself with persons with disabilities, when I was in the PEP program as the director, I went around this country to identify these persons with disabilities, and I brought them together. Had them placed at the McKnight Community Center. They are still there. And they were trained, and they continue to be trained in all sorts of areas. And I remember having a conversation with the honorable member for number 8, the PM. And I told him, if I'm going to get anything to do with social protection, and please spell out aging and disabilities. Because when it comes to aging, Madam Speaker, I love being around them as well. You learn a lot from them. You get to drink all sorts of bush tea. Anything happen to you, they got a remedy, they can help you. So I like to be around them. But when I see how some of them are living, it is very painful. And I'm happy with how the minister represented herself this morning as to how we intend to make a difference when it comes to aging and disabilities. I'm just in for 3 months, just about 4. I've already constructed 2 ramps in my constituency. One in particular, I know for a fact, for over 7 or 8 years, Anthony Mills, I could call his name, have been asking for a ramp in a particular area that would allow him to do his own shopping. That was not delivered. And after my ascension, I called him and I told him, you are now going to have that ramp. And I'm happy that I was able to make a little difference in somebody's lives who waited so long. And going forward, Madam Speaker, these are some of the things we got to deal with urgency. I know everybody feels that their matters are always urgent, but we should be able to discern really what is. And some of these are basic. You know, people in wheelchair, they need to get some, we got to provide for them, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, how much more time I have? Huh? Get in there. So, Madam Speaker, I would want to take at this time this opportunity to encourage all citizens and residents to learn more about the role of the Ministry of Aging and Disabilities, what assistance it offers and how that assistance can be accessed. Because there are a lot of times things are there, persons don't know, and then they feel that they can't be helped. The services being offered can make the difference in our lives and that of a family member, a neighbor, or a friend. We need to take full advantage of the support and the quality of care that is available through the work of this ministry. They have been working, Madam Speaker. And if I touch on social development in the area of community consciousness, I continue to share in the conviction of the learned economists who say that despite the availability of resources, our needs are infinite, and it takes the effective management of resources to best satisfy the boundless needs of mankind. And you heard it coming out from the Honorable Minister. We must be able to manage. Madam Speaker, I say that because as we look to the budget to provide for the needs of the people of St. Kitts and Nevis, there must be that need that we can't afford to be thinking that we can do things as usual when it comes to these social programs. We are empowering our families and communities. In my constituency, St. Christopher number 1, there continues to be the need of community organization to better complement the work of the government in our schools, in providing sporting programs and providing health care. I was happy to hear that I'm getting my sporting complex, and my junior minister have given me the assurance that she's going to make sure that East Bastia Community Center would be a center of excellence and not a heat box. Yes, you can lose weight quickly if you go in there because all of the windows are boarded up, and of course there are no AC units. But I beg 2 already, Madam Speaker. I want to touch briefly on the point of volunteerism, because volunteerism, Madam Speaker, is something that is so rewarding, takes you places that you don't even had an idea that you would have. And that's how I lived my life. I volunteered to do just about everything. Got called all sorts of names because I was volunteering. But it never deterred me. And I'm calling on our citizens to get back in that mind of volunteerism. That is how we are able to build our communities as well. But we are now a society that from the time you ask someone to do something, they ask you, well, how much are you getting paid? Why should I volunteer when them there getting money and they ain't doing nothing? You should let them there work. But it is going to be key, especially in this ministry and other ministries, as we move forward, Madam Speaker. Of course, we can't underscore the importance of the food packages that we continue to distribute, whether on a personal level, whether it is via the Kia Foundation, whether it is at social development. These are important. Matter of fact, Madam Speaker, I have been doing this for a number of years and I continue. And what I like about it, my children are also in it. So there's a certain pantry in my home, a space that is always stocked with things. So anybody pass, apart from the regular monthly distribution, anybody come, and I am not at home, anyone could go and give somebody a package. And this must be encouraged. And of course, with everything you do it with discernment. Because you don't want persons, Madam Speaker, to be taking advantage of your heart, of your foundation. So we are asking persons to get back into that mood of wanting to volunteer. Madam Speaker, I move here now to the STEP program. Now, when the PEP started, the idea behind the PEP program was to provide persons with an opportunity to either gain some skills that they can eventually turn into something livable, if I should use that term, and in other areas to be their own bosses. Over the years, that program would have shifted from that, Madam Speaker. And I'm not here to bash any program, because as a lion myself, part of our code of ethics is to build up and not destroy. But I think it is important and necessary for the nation to have a clear idea of some of the irregularities that I detected or the staff detected at the STEP program. For some people, Madam Speaker, it is regarded as a part-time job. Persons are gainfully employed but are still on the STEP program as permanent. Some are so creative, they're on a job 8 to 4, that's where they are. And on the STEP time sheet, they're still coming in 8 to 4. But how one person could work 2 places the same kind of hours? And these are practices that we must cut out. Some are facilitated by employers, because when the PEP program started, many did not respect it because of the fact that they thought that SIDF had a lot of money and they could do as they like. But I am getting another chance now, Madam Speaker, So I have started fixing and cleaning up some of those irregularities. Previously, Madam Speaker, supervisors were told to just put in times, whether they know the person, not checking to see if the person really at the place where they're supposed to be. That can continue, Madam Speaker. We detected that there were some government employees who were also being paid from the STEP program. Getting pay from government and finding other ways of getting more money, double dipping, and politicians supported that. That's evil in the sight of God. Some, Madam Speaker, get paid without the forms and the names coming in to the office, Madam Speaker. It had a list with probably about close to 20, I don't want to lie. Said that they're taking care of all sorts of people. And now government change and you send out people to verify you. Nothing tall go so. Nothing tall go so. And what make it even painful is when some of them telling you, well, let tell me I could take care of my grandmother and I could get the pay. Can we continue doing this thing, Madam Speaker? Recognizing that, immediately I gave the charge for the workers at the STEP office, and I want to commend them. I want to commend their leadership in such a short space of time and their detective eyes. And also because we send some sniff dogs down there. And what we did to correct that, immediately we contacted the CFBC through the Health and Science Division and asked them to run a program where we can train our young people to become home care officers. So in the early stages of next year, January, 25 of those would graduate as certified home care officers, and they'll be assigned to aging and disabilities, going around in the various communities and helping our elderly and even those who are not elderly but because of whatever disability, providing that. And it's not going to stop, Madam Speaker, because we have more persons now wanting to do that. And it's going to end up being a double whammy for some persons, but they qualify themselves for it. There are persons out there who are looking for that kind of service on a private level, and these persons who are certified with their certificate from CFBC, well accredited, will be able to say to Mary Paul, I'm certified. It's okay, you can go away for the 2 weeks vacation, take some relief, and I will be able to do that. That is what we want to do for our aging population.
Honorable Member, you have 15 minutes left on your allotted time.
You mean on the 90 and then ask?
Yes, sir.
I promise you may gonna use up all of the extra, but are coming.
At the end of the 15, you ask,
Yes.
you make your request.
No problem. Thank you very much, Honorable Member. Madam Speaker, sorry. I know, but Madam Speaker, if that's a prophecy, well, in here over this side, that piece is holy ground. We are standing on holy ground. So, what you want me to declare, AG? I said it in the atmosphere, and it shall be accomplished. Thus says the Lord. Moving right on, Madam Speaker. We are asking that the businesses, some of them, take a more serious role in ensuring that the step workers that they have, they are really doing what they have to do and send in the right timesheets. We are tightening up on a lot. Now, Madam Speaker, I also discovered that there are participants who are on, just for the short, what the peace program is not the ALP. They are still on the STEP program. No, can't happen. Should not happen. And we have put a stop to it. We can't do this double dipping. Not that you have an issue with helping people who are really deserving of it, but it should not be on the basis of taking advantage. Some of them, Madam Speaker, going home with more money than some who spent hours in university and get a lot of F's and D's and then eventually pass. We cannot support these. Yes, we are going to hell, but we are not going to allow persons to take advantage. And we are not blaming nobody because the money belongs to the taxpayers. So you can't be on step, say you're working, and still on peace, and you're supposed to be working on peace. Going forward, we won't allow that. Another thing, and I'm wrapping up on step because we have PAP, is that what we recognize as well, in the program, persons register as business, or the businesses are registered, and they are being paid to operate their own business. But that's the word of the government now. We can't do that, Madam Speaker. We can't do that. We can't pay you and then pay all. So in other words, they're winning all around because they're getting paid to got the shoe store and we paying them workers. And what is really painful, Madam Speaker, because, you know, I go up on the street and some of these things I knew before, because I was in the program. I'm not saying the program was perfect. But when you realize things, if I made mistake at first in the program, and you get a chance to run that same program, there should be some level of improvement. But don't allow it to turn out to be the worst ever. And we are working on fixing these issues, Madam Speaker. And I see, I don't know, she's right here. Jennifer Evelyn, she is the one right now who is acting in that capacity, and I want to personally call her out. I guess some of it is because she had many years working with a lawyer, you know, Fitzroy Boy and Madam Speaker. Yes, she used to work with him, so she know she got to go and find information wherever the information is. And I'm happy for that. But as I speak to the businesses, the program was intended to assist you in reaching a particular place in your business. And I remember when we tried, Madam Speaker, to say business per half, the $150, and then this PEP program at the time would have paid the other $150. So it's a partnership. Because of politics, rant and rage of the country, oh no, they need to do that, they need to help people, and that kind of stuff. When the program was designed, you get your training, they work with you. After a particular time, if you're satisfied with the performance, you move towards taking them permanent. Some stores have like 5 people assigned to them, a small little store. Why would we want to do that to the program? It is the taxpayers' money. And I asked the office to do a job for me, and I was happy they did it, but it was kind of head hurting when I saw the information. But before I drop that, let me just say, next year we're going back to training our people and making sure that we get them certified. I left documents there, Madam Speaker, contact information for the certification to take place. Monies were allocated and nothing happened. And it was ranting and raging that they're going to give these people certificate. They're going to be certified. So nice, they win, nothing happened. But we're going back to that because our people need to be certified so that they can find themselves in their own areas of specialties. And next year we're going to train a cohort of island councillors. I am bringing on board some school safety officers, Madam Speaker, because this is where we need to take the program. But Madam Speaker, just to do a quick calculation, Convis is an accountant and he got a master accountant here too. Imagine if somebody was on the program from the inception. That is 2013 when we officially started. And they were at Brandy's Enterprise from 2013 to now. That's not a real business name, I'm just sharing. But we have these things here. That Brandy's Enterprise from 2013 on to now on the STEP program. Madam Speaker, you have any clue what the total or how much monies we would have saved that business? Because it's we investing it in the individual. Yes, the person wanted what they have the family to fend for. One whopping $192,839.44. From 2013 to now, you have somebody working in your place and you can't take them permanent and they're doing such a bad job. You leave them in your place from 2013 until now, and the program would have invested $192,839.44. We got to fix this, Madam Speaker. We are going to work with one another to get this done. This cannot be sustainable, Madam Speaker. and we are going to work the best way we can to make sure that persons are not disadvantaged, and at the same time that government is not used either. So, Madam Speaker, I move now to the PAP. Much would have been said about this program, but I want to just let the public know that we have started the re-registration process. And as of this morning, we have over 10,000 persons who have applied for the PAP program. But what was painful, Madam Speaker, was how things were done. I walk me back, but you say I don't have much time. Because remember, I am a teacher, so I like to have my demonstrations and all of that. 4 minutes? I'm going to try to finish it in 2.5. I'm not going to get the extra. But Madam Speaker, I have a lot of things here. But with the PAP, when you have civil servants making more than $3,000 on the PAP, I believe the AG will say that's a crime. And immediately I moved towards fixing that. Then we discovered all sorts of numbers that don't exist in Social Security. And all I did was to ask them to do cross-reference. And creative as some of them are, James Daniel Brown, Daniel Dave Brown, but I have the same Social Security and the same bank account. Well, who's so crazy to have the bank account and know that somebody has got the same bank account? And as a result, Madam Speaker, we had to bring the program to the point where we had re-registration done. A good cause, but abused. Some are so bold to tell you that they're putting up the $500, they're just saving it. But when I do cross-reference with some of the names, Madam Speaker, the name up in NHC, well, I'm in charge of NHC. And most likely the name might be over Skellig. So if you get in the $500 to help you, why don't you put it in the areas that it should go and you would be able to benefit better? So, Madam Speaker, we have to do much better than that. And there were some persons, because they want to appear to be political, or we take off people. Not a thing, so Madam Speaker. Everybody who on the program, including the hairdressers, them who got their own business, that should not have been there. We ain't take off a soul other than the civil servants, so some of them up to $5,000 was getting. And I forget to mention,
Honorable Member, you're out of time.
Honorable Speaker, can I be allowed just a few more minutes?
The Honorable Member of St. Christopher 1 has requested additional time, the maximum of which he has is 30 minutes. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it.
And I promise you I'm not going to use the 30 minutes because you have been very, very good.
I'm grateful.
To me. But Madam Speaker, we had to make some changes. And at this time I want to commend our new permanent secretary, Mrs. Zilla Clark, and her entire team for doing an awesome job in the time frame that I gave. I felt bad, Madam Speaker. But I wanted it done. And they were able to get it done dead on time. So we have asked persons to re-register. And of course, you heard the concerns about making sure that is the right people benefit from these programs. We are going to be doing our due diligence in a lot of areas, and you would have heard me in my presentation to the nation that we will be adding case management to it. I would not be the minister with responsibility for this program, Honorable Speaker, and support 5 families in the same house getting $500. It is wrong, Madam Speaker. Some have already approached me indicating, well, all of us live in the area, but I live in the yard. I live this way, but is not one, is all. I said to the person, and you know I'm a straight shooter. I says, one $500 going there, you decide which one going to get it or how you're going to split it. We cannot continue to support wrong, Madam Speaker. We are going to try our best to get the program where it should be. We know that there are always leak holes and people are going to try all sorts of things. But one of the things they sign to on the farm, whether they read it or not, is after investigation I find that you were lying, you'll try another time and another program. It can't happen, Madam Speaker. And people must appreciate the investment of taxpayers' money. It is not so much about a government, you know, it's taxpayers' money. Again, when I went to Antigua, and I had a document here, Antigua has a similar program, people support program. And when I met with the individual, and he said they're getting $215. I said, but how much people are on the program? Oh, he thought, so I said, you mean 2,100? They said $215. EC dollars. That is what is being paid in a similar program down in Antigua. So we are in a much better position, but we cannot afford to abuse it. But Madam Speaker, when I read, and if you want it, I could bring it for you when you have it over your lunch. When I read all that they're asking for the $215, it is unbelievable. But in $215 until you die, or, but you know, Madam Speaker, you know, you got papas going to dead people account. People dead, but it was still going, and relatives withdrawing the money back to Antigua. Now, with this program in Antigua, they give you, based on evaluation, they give you 6 months or a year. They load up the card, a credit card, through 4 C's, and you get the card. At midnight on the 6th month, the card shut down. There is no rolling over either. And when you try to make another application, because you know sometimes in 6 months or a year, some person's condition might not have changed, or they just need a little bit extra push over the hill. They now have to carry all the files and the envelopes of all the places that they applied for a job. and they were denied for them to get another opportunity. Well, we always try to learn from best practices, so I want you to read the document, Madam Speaker, and as one of my past students, you give your teacher a little insight as to what you think, because
You'll have to pay a consultation fee first.
well,
I'm on a private business, just so you are aware.
Okay, no, well respected Madam Speaker. I'll see where in the budget I might be able to fit you in, but things, done allocated, but something might be able to work out. But the bottom line of the point I'm making, Madam Speaker, I don't want persons to feel that we are taking away the pap from them. That will never happen, because I have always said, even in the campaign, any social program that you are benefiting from, we can only better it. But I don't want our people to take advantage of it, because many people want to get on. Their conditions are horrible. They never got an opportunity to be in the 7,000 plus that were there. And some of them did not qualify to be there. But for the sake of a vote, not studying what can happen to the people after the vote or the country, we make certain decisions and we pay the price after that. But the team, they are doing an excellent job in getting the PAP program exactly where it ought to be, Madam Speaker. And no longer would we, as a government, see these things happening and shut our eyes. My father always said to me, wrong is wrong, and don't care how you polish it up. Once it's wrong, it is wrong. And you only got your name. So I have to hold on, and my name, Jeffrey Ian Hanley. So I am going to do things the right way, and the way God expects me to do. So I ask the country to be patient with us as we get now into the other phase of the program. But you would not be left out. Madam Speaker, again ready to close. As parliamentary representative for St. Christopher number 1, I continue to see this community spirit in action, and I only ask the people for their active support in 2023 to getting more done for all of our single mothers, and I guess I'm going to hear fathers, so you see, I say not about fathers, but if you had say fathers, I would say mothers, and making sure that everybody puts a helping hand. Because Madam Speaker, once there is a caring shoulder or a listening ear, it goes a long way to bring relief to others. As one Antiguan, and oh boy, back to Antigua, I guess because I have my wife from down there. Calypsonian and philosopher had one so eloquently stated in a song, and I repeat it: not just a society, but a just society. Let this, Madam Speaker, be our plea. In conclusion, this 2023 budget can and will provide the catalyst that is needed for economic growth and social advancement. And you heard it coming out throughout all of the presentation, and fully supported by those members opposite those who have presented thus far. as a government, we would need to vigorously pursue the goals that have been articulated in our budget as a policy document and rightly use the resources that have been allocated. Each year, Madam Speaker, the cost of providing public goods become more costly. The need for conscious, determined action becomes more necessary, a priority. That is why I take this opportunity to wish all workers in the ministries of education, youth empowerment, aging and disabilities, housing, human settlement, and ecclesiastical affairs and faith-based, social development, gender, just in case I did not remember anyone. Merry Christmas and a festive and rejuvenating carnival. There's much work to be done in 2023, which will demand our full attention and dedicated action. I also end, Madam Speaker, by saluting the good people of East Bastille who have sent me to this National Assembly to deal with the matters that would improve the social condition that they might be encountering in the areas. And I thank again the great people of East Bastille for their love, their support, their encouragement, and I pledge to work always, as I've been doing even before I'm over here, on your behalf. I know I've been bombarded, Madam Speaker, by telephone calls with many concerns, especially those on the Southeast Peninsula, with their water situation, but I give them the reassurance. You heard it coming out in the budget address. You will hear more of that coming out from the minister who has that passion. We are working on remedying that situation. Much of it, of course, we inherited, but we're not going back there. It's a new day. It's a new day. It's a new day, and God has been good to us. Will give us all of the technical support. You heard the Honorable Premier talking earlier about the collaboration with the DISAL plan that is coming. The other opportunities, the geothermal, the other opportunities with linking up with Marriott using what they have over there. So we are at work. So I just want to give my constituents that assurance that in quick time, we are going to fix it. They will not endure it for that length of time that they did, that they voted out of government. But to those persons in the Frigate Bay area, the Bird Rock, the Ponds Pasture, the Ponds Extension, the New Town, the Ponds Estate, the New Ponds Site, Taylors, Bladens, all come in. Almost, you know them, I remember I just got there foot, and they're going to see me this week because I'm giving out my cards. I am not putting them in, Madam Speaker. One of the reasons why I start giving out my cards, I was going to bring them in, I was going to use them last year. While I was in opposition, and we're not going to do that at Congress, we are not going to allow that to happen. But while I was in opposition, whenever I placed my cards in the mailbox down the post office, having paid for my stamps, carry them myself and drop them off. For years, they just put on stamp, return to sender. I had them home in a bag because, like I said, last year I was supposed to drop it in Parliament. But I know the Honorable Congress is not going to allow that, and people got to understand that it is an offense to tamper with mails. And it's somebody down there who it was it was the conscience. They came and they told me, Madam Speaker, they told me exactly what was happening.
Indulgence, please. Honorable members, let us allow the Honorable Member for St. Christopher I to complete his presentation without the unnecessary and loud crosstalk. Thank you very much. All members.
Thank you very much.
On both sides.
Yes, thank you very much. But
Proceed, Honorable Member.
Honorable Member, you know that nobody at all, absolutely nobody at all, could intimidate me in this house. Because when I come in here under an anointing. I anoint my lips, everything. So you don't have to worry about a thing, Madam Speaker. And they never silenced me when I was in the opposition or me in government until whenever I ready to retire in my 70s. They ain't gonna try not now. But back to the post office.
Complete your presentation, please, Honorable
I was
Member.
saying those practices cannot continue. And I don't make up stories and I don't practice to tell lies. I know for a fact what was happening. So you're going to see me bringing around your Christmas cards and your Christmas greetings. So I pray that together we will be able to accomplish many good things, Madam Speaker, in this new year. And I look forward to all of the excitement, all of the projects, all of the innovation that our citizens will be able to benefit from. And it's all we are serving. And as such, Madam Speaker, I wish this budget safe passage and I express best wishes for the Merry Christmas to you, Madam Speaker, and all members of the Honorable House, and to the clerk and all the staff of the chamber. May 2023 be our year of continued favor. May it please you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you to the Honorable Member for St. Christopher I. Is this a convenient time? I recognize the Honorable Member for St. Christopher III.
We were going to suggest an adjournment for lunch, but we've had 3 speakers on the government side. We were motioning him note. New members have stepped in. We're giving them the opportunity to rise if they wanted to contribute at this time.
If that is the case, I would prefer that we break for lunch. It is now 2:15. So if there is an indication from any other member that they wish to speak, my position is that the presentation is after the lunch break.
Yes. So we open the floor for you to speak.
Is there an indication from anyone who wishes to speak at this time?
So it's
if
clear.
not, proceed with the motion.
Yes. All right. So we were affording the opportunity for a member to go since we had presented 3, but at this time, since there's no interest from the members who, especially those who just came in, town is a buzz. It's that day. It's buzziest destination. And with that, I'm asking your leave, Madam Speaker, for the members of this house to get a chance to interact with the buzziness in town for that day, and ask that we adjourn until Monday morning at 10 in the forenoon, if these members would so oblige.
And I rise, Madam Speaker, to second that motion.
The question is that this house be adjourned until Monday at 10 a.m. sharp. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. This house is adjourned until Monday at 10 a.m.
Merry Christmas.